Chapter 364. Mr. Tung, as the largest trading company in the world, the Rising Sun Trading Company has many businesses. The sixth elder said enthusiastically, aside from some businesses on the surface, we also have an organization that specializes in solving troubles. If anyone has any trouble or enemies, they can come to us. This organization is called the Hall of Assassins. Hall of Assassins? Tung Shan raised his eyebrows and asked, Sixth Elder, you want me to be an assassin? In his previous life, Tung Shan was a top-notch assassin. Although Tung Shan didn't care about killing people, he didn't want to do it. Mr. Tung, what is your status? The sixth elder asked. Although not many people knew about the fight between the Great Elder and Tung Shan, the elders of the Rising Sun Trading Company still knew. Even the Rising Sun Martial Immortal, the strongest person below the Martial Immortal, admitted that he wasn't a match for Tung Shan. It was obvious how much the Rising Sun Trading Company valued Tung Shan. In the Hall of Assassins, there are also Martial Saint-level assassins. However, when a Martial Saint takes a mission, the Martial Saint must agree to it. The sixth elder smiled and said, I know that Mr. Tung really wants the 36 pieces of time. All the elders of the trading company know that Mr. Tung possesses extraordinary strength. Moreover, the Hall of Assassins occasionally receives some missions that are impossible to complete. Of course, those missions that are impossible to complete are nothing in front of Mr. Tung. The sixth elder smiled and said, We also know that experts like Mr. Tung don't care about money. The sixth elder hastily said with a smile, We also know that experts like Mr. Tung don't care about money. Hollow Dan innate martial saints are called ordinary martial saints. True Dan innate martial saints are called top martial saints. True Dan innate martial saints are called top martial saints. Golden Dan innate martial saints are called peak martial saints. We are preparing to create another level above the ranks of assassins, the most powerful martial saint. The sixth elder looked at Tung Shan with a smile and said, Mr. Tung deserves to be called the most powerful martial saint. There is only one condition to ask the most powerful martial saint to make a move. One of the 36 inscriptions of the 36 splitting mountain forms must be given to the most powerful martial saint for 2 to 3 years. Tung Shan's heart skipped a beat. Furthermore, if someone really requests Mr., we will first show the mission to Mr. Whether or not you accept it is entirely up to Mr. The sixth elder hastily said, As for a sculpture, how many years would Mr. need to use it? Not likely to possess it completely. The price of a single sculpture is too high. Mr.'s actions are worth that price, but not many clans are willing. If it's just a few years, our trading firm will guarantee it. Then it's fine. Tung Shan was tempted. All right, I agree. Tung Shan smiled and nodded. I'll use a stone sculpture for 3 years. Actually, according to his estimation, it would only take a few months. However, just in case, it was better to make it longer. The sixth elder laughed and said, Mr. Tung, don't worry. The world is in chaos now, and the 100 clans are fighting for hegemony. Some clans flourished, while others declined. There were many clans that had irreconcilable enmity with each other. The most helpless thing is that there are some missions that our Hall of Assassins can't accept, nor do we have the ability to accept. With Mr., there are a total of 36 stone inscriptions in the world. I can guarantee that within 10 years, Mr. will have no problem seeing 8 to 10 stone inscriptions. The sixth elder was very confident. Many clans in the world had stone inscriptions, but they were unwilling to take them out. Many clans were willing to lend the stone inscriptions for 3 years to get rid of the thorn in their side. After all, with the Rising Sun Trading Company as a guarantor, there was no need to worry about the credibility of a trading firm with thousands of years of history. Then I'll wait for sixth elder's good news, Tung Shan said. Once there's news, I will inform Mr. immediately. The sixth elder stood up and said with a smile, Then I won't disturb Mr. any longer. I'll take my leave first. The weather was cold. Tung Shan watched the sixth elder and the others leave. He knew that cooperating with the Rising Sun Trading Company was beneficial to both parties. With Tung Qingshan joining the Hall of Assassins of the Rising Sun Trading Company, the Hall of Assassins had a higher status among the major assassin organizations in Duanmu continent. And Tung Qingshan would be able to obtain the stone inscriptions easily. With the stone inscriptions, I can save a lot of time. Now, the most important thing for me is time. To return to my hometown, the 9 prefectures, as soon as possible. Tung Qingshan looked southward. His parents, his sister, and his brothers were there. Asterisk, 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 asterisk in the spacious belly of the godly Axe Mountain. The belly of the mountain was more than 20 zhang, 60 to 70 meters, in length and width, and 16 to 17 zhang, 16 to 17 meters, in height. With such a spacious belly of the mountain, not to mention the 5 of Tung Qingshan's group, even 50 people could easily live here. The only problem was this cave was underground, and it was completely dark without any light. Fortunately, there were iron leaf fruits. Fruits that glowed with a green glow were casually placed in the belly of the mountain. Although the glow of each iron leaf fruit was very weak, with over 200 iron leaf fruits scattered around, it allowed Li Jun, Old Wang, and the others who cultivated inner strength to easily see most of the interior of the mountain. With the help of the light from over 200 iron leaf fruits, Tung Shou could clearly see every part of the surroundings. At the same time, he dug a few caves on the mountain wall. Each cave had a long bed, 2 iron leaf fruits, and even a door curtain, so that people could sleep. On the 7th day of living in the belly of the mountain, 36 blunt vanadium stone tablets were placed against the mountain wall. Tung Qingshan sat cross-legged in meditation. Apart from him, there was no one else in the entire belly of the mountain. At a certain moment, Tung Qingshan opened his eyes. Little June and the others are indeed not used to living in such a dark environment. They only sleep here at night and usually stay outside. Tung Qingshan looked around. He was the only one in the belly of the mountain. That's right. It's so dark that they can't see clearly. It's normal that they are not used to it. Tung Qingshan lowered his head and looked at his chest. The small tripod had long been sealed up by Tung Qingshan with metal plates. Moreover, he was wearing a thick leather jacket. In this cave, the small tripod suppressed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, causing it to be calm and docile. Although there was a colorful halo, due to the heavy ceiling, no one noticed it. It was unknown whether it was because of the small tripod. Big Brother Tung, it's time for lunch. Lunchtime, lunchtime, lunchtime. Echoes spread through the tunnel. Tung Qingshan smiled and stood up. He held the reincarnation spear and walked to the entrance of the tunnel, leaving quickly along the tunnel. Roar! The 6-legged blade-like Qi looked over through the other tunnel. A strange look appeared in the eyes of its triangular head. After being neighbors for 7 days, the 6-legged blade-like Qi knew the habits of the group of humans, Blue Luan, and the whole Gale Eagle. However, because of the power of Tung Qingshan and Blue Luan, the 6-legged blade-like Qi didn't dare to provoke them. It clearly remembered that on the first day, Tung Qingshan and Blue Luan moved in. They beat it up. A human girl even gave it a warning. Humans also know the language of beasts. The 6-legged blade-like Qi liked the girl who knew the language of beasts the most. The 6-legged blade-like Qi retracted its triangular head and continued sleeping. It had been sleeping for at least 900 of the 1,000 years. Tung Qingshan, Li Jun, and the others sat together and enjoyed a sumptuous lunch. Little Jun's culinary skills are getting better and better. Tung Qingshan praised as he ate. This was the truth of Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan realized that Little Jun's culinary skills had been improving during the 3 months they had been living on the godly Axe Mountain. The taste of the dishes was getting better and better. Yes, good. Tung Shou nodded. When Li Jun heard Tung Qingshan's praise, her face became even more beautiful and rosy. It's not bad. Little Ping is helping me. Li Jun couldn't help but think of what Little Ping had told her. The first way to capture a man's heart was to cook dishes that would make men drool. Li Jun praised inwardly. Little Ping is right. Just when Tung Qingshan and the others were happily eating at the table, Asho, Asho. An anxious voice suddenly rang. Eh. Tung Ching Shan frowned. Tung Shou widened his eyes and immediately dashed out. Who is it? Tung Ching Shan was puzzled. He had never heard that voice before. It wasn't someone he was familiar with. Therefore, he stood up and ran out. Li Jun, Little Ping, and Old Wang followed him. Outside the house, with a glance, Tung Ching Shan saw an ordinary-looking, weak, and petite peasant girl wearing a patched gray cotton jacket grabbing Tung Shou's hand. Her face was full of tears as she said, "Ah Shou, quick! Save him! Save him!" The peasant girl seemed to be extremely anxious and frightened. Even her speech was a little messy. Go! Go! Tung Shou glared like an angry lion and was about to run out. Ah Shou! Tung Ching Shan walked out and said, "Ask this girl what's going on." Teacher. Tung Shou turned his head and said, She is Ah Shou. Li Jun hastily said, "Big brother Tung. Ah Shou often practices his fist art in the forest in the north. There are some farmlands over there, and there are often village women and young girls working there. Ah Shou probably met someone by chance." Tung Ching Shan suddenly understood. Indeed, this place was close to Nanshan City. There were indeed many villages in the vicinity. If we don't leave now, we won't make it. The young girl was so anxious that tears streamed down her face. Teacher. Tung Shou was also anxious to leave. Old Wang, bring the 2 Scarlet Wind War House over. Tung Ching Shan knew that now wasn't the time to ask in detail. Moreover, his disciple, Tung Shou, was a stubborn person. If he wanted to save someone, even Tung Ching Shan, as his teacher, wouldn't be able to stop him. The 2 Scarlet Wind War House were brought over. Ah Shou, bring the girl up. Tung Ching Shan immediately leaped onto the other Scarlet Wind War House. Tung Shou immediately carried the young girl and mounted the other Scarlet Wind War House. Little Jun, Ah Shou and I will go for a while. We will be back soon, Tung Ching Shan said. Yes. Li Jun hastily nodded. When Old Wang saw this scene, he sighed slightly. He wasn't worried at all. In his opinion, with his master's help, no matter how difficult the matter was, it was nothing. Girl, lead the way, Tung Ching Shan instructed. Okay. The young girl hastily nodded. Giddy up, giddy up. The 2 Scarlet Wind War House immediately galloped on the accumulated snow and galloped away. Chapter 365. The 2 Scarlet Wind War House ran side by side. Follow this path straight ahead, and you'll reach my Tian village. The young girl named Ah Shou hastily said. Tung Ching Shan looked at Ah Shou and asked, "What happened to Tian village? Who did you save?" "Ah Shou, what happened?" Tung Shou asked. The young girl cried and said, "A group of soldiers came to Tian village to collect taxes. However, the taxes are too high and we can't afford it. Therefore, those soldiers are in Tian village and are capturing young women to pay the taxes. The village is in complete chaos. I crawled out of the dog hole in the fence and ran here." Collect taxes? Tung Ching Shan frowned slightly. In his hometown, Yangzhou's Jiangning County, those bandit gangs would collect annual taxes. Once the annual taxes were insufficient, they would occasionally capture strong men or young women to pay the taxes. The strong men could become bandits, while the young women could be sold to brothels or be enjoyed by the bandit gangs. In short, in this chaotic world, strong men and young women could be counted as money. Soldiers collect taxes and capture women. What's the difference between them and bandits? Tung Ching Shan could already see the village in front of him. The village was not far from the Crescent Moon Lake. It was about 2 li away. "I beg you, let me go. Let me go. Father, mother, save my mother." Mother of Asterisk Cur scrammed to the side. "Little bastard, I will kick you to death." Women's hoarse cries, children's wails, and many soldiers' reprimands. It was chaos. Tung Ching Shan and the others rode on the Scarlet Wind War House and saw this scene when they arrived at the open space in front of the village. There were even many bloodstains on the ground. "Stop!" Tung Ching Shan shouted angrily. His angry shout was like thunder in spring, causing many people to cover their ears in fear. For a moment, the noisy and chaotic open space quietened down. Tang Qingshan could see clearly that there were mainly two groups of people on this open space. One group was the locals of Tian village. All of them were suppressing their anger and holding machetes, spears, and sticks in their hands, but they didn't make a move. On the other side, there were soldiers wearing simple light armor. These soldiers also captured many young women. Some of the women were struggling madly. Clearly, they knew that if they were taken away, they would suffer miserable fates. "Who are you?" The leader of the army, who was riding on a one-horned war-hoe, looked at Tang Qingshan from afar. "Father, mother." The girl called Xiao jumped off the Scarlet Wind war-hoe and charged into the crowd of Tian village members. "Xiao, you, who allowed you to run out?" The Tian village's chief, a grizzled-haired old man with a scar on his face, berated angrily. He was anxious. He was very clear that even if the person Axiu found was very strong and could drive away these soldiers, he would not be able to do so. However, the revenge of the soldiers in the future would be even more terrifying. The grizzled-haired old man hastily cupped his hands and said, "I am Tian village's chief, Tian Weishan. Both of you, Xiao, is not sensible." However, Tang Qingshan did not listen to him. He looked at the leader of the soldiers and asked, "You, what's going on here?" The leader of the soldiers scrutinized Tang Qingshan and thought to himself, "I don't know where these two people came from, but they are so arrogant. However, he is riding on a Scarlet Wind war-hoe, and there are two of them. TSK, this is a valuable toy. To be able to ride a Scarlet Wind war-hoe, he is definitely not an ordinary person." "Huh?" The leader of the soldiers laughed and said, "We are here to collect taxes, but this Tian village refuses to pay. According to the rules, it is only right and proper to take people to pay the taxes. This only happens once a year, and it is not a lot. We have already paid 3 times this year." A woman who was captured by them roared, "You black-hearted sons of cheese. Time and time again, we don't even have enough to eat, and you still want us to pay. We, women and children, earn money from farming, but it is not enough for you, Pa." A black-bearded soldier who was escorting her slapped her, causing her mouth to be filled with blood. "Mother." Among the Tian village clansmen, a young boy's voice was already hoarse, but his mouth was covered by a sturdy man beside him. That sturdy man's eyes were also filled with tears. "Once a year, but this woman said that she has paid 3 times. Tang Qingshan had just opened his mouth. "Hey!" The leader of the soldiers frowned and shouted, "This tax collection is our army's matter. You're just a passerby. Why are you meddling in other people's business? I will give you face and say a few more words. Don't be a hindrance here." Then he turned his head and stared at the Tian village chief and shouted, "Old man Tian, quickly, hand over the brat who injured my brother just now. Otherwise, more than one person from your Tian village will die today. F*CK. I hate that I didn't kill you just now." A youth with a ferocious expression, whose neck was flushed red, was being held back by many men from Tian village. He roared, "Return my wife to me. Let go of me. All of you, let go of me." This youth struggled, but he couldn't break free from the group of sturdy men. On the snowy ground in front of Tian village, the clansmen of Tian village and the army were confronting each other. There were many bloodstains on the snowy ground. Tang Qingshan, who was at the side, also guessed someone should have died just now. "You are still being stubborn even at death's door. First team, go and capture him. Anyone who obstructs you, kill without mercy." The leader of the army sat high up on the one-horned war-hoe and ordered. The people of Tian village couldn't help but be shocked. "Xiao." The farmer girl named Xiao shouted mournfully. She had seen Tang Xiao practice fist art before. At this moment, she could only place her hopes on Tang Xiao. "Xiao, capture him." Tang Qingshan pointed at the leader of the army. Whoosh! Tang Xiao transformed into a blur and instantly traversed a distance of over 10 zhang. The leader of the army was shocked and immediately swung his saber at Tang Xiao. Bang! Tang Xiao first punched the stomach of the leader of the army, causing him to spit out blood. Then, as if he was carrying a dead dog, Shou took a few steps back and arrived at Tung Qingshan's side. He casually threw the leader of the army onto the ground. Xiao! An ear-piercing whistling sound soared into the sky. Boom! The leader flew into the sky and suddenly exploded. The leader of the army crouched on the ground, and a trace of blood could be seen at the corner of his mouth. You dare! The eyes of the leader of the army turned red. Recruiting? Tung Qingshan raised his head and looked at the exploding red powder. A smile appeared on his face. He lowered his head and looked at the leader of the army below. Little fellow, you are the leader of a 100-man squad. You should know your place. Order your subordinates to let go of all the women. Otherwise, you will die immediately. Tung Qingshan spoke calmly, but the leader of the 100-man squad gritted his teeth and roared at the soldiers. Let go. Let go of those stinky women. Asho, slap him, Tung Qingshan said. Slap, slap. Tung Shou directly slapped the leader twice, causing his mouth to be filled with blood and 2 of his teeth to fall out. The soldiers' faces were filled with anger, but they suppressed their anger and released all the women. In their eyes, these women obviously couldn't compare to their captain. A group of young women ran back to their own clans. Mother, brother, these women were either hugging their children or hugging their men and parents. All of their faces were covered in tears. However, many people in Tian village had worried looks on their faces. They were very clear that even if the 2 experts riding on the Scarlet Wind Warhouse in front of them ordered the soldiers to retreat, they would not be able to do so. But in the future, they would be even more miserable. My lords, the chief of Tian village knelt down with tears streaming down his old face. I beg of you, don't bother about this matter anymore. We are already very grateful to you. I beg of you. Tung Shou's face was ashen. Tung Qingshan looked to the south and smiled. TSK, TSK. Looks like many people have come. Clack, clack, clack. The dense sounds of hooves could be heard. On the road ahead, groups of cavalries were galloping over in a grandiose manner like a black steel flood. In just a short while, they occupied the empty space in front of Tian village. There were also many cavalries riding on hunchback beasts on the road. Neatly, the teams lined up neatly. General, many soldiers saluted respectfully. A cold-looking man with a stocky build and wearing black heavy armor rode on a similarly armored warhouse. He looked at Tung Qingshan and Tung Qingshan. My lords, please release my people, the cold-looking man said. Tung Qingshan waved his hand and said, Asho, let him go. Tung Shou immediately kicked the captain of the 100-man squad. The captain immediately tumbled on the snowy ground. He hastily got up and rushed to the side of his army. He saluted respectfully to the general on the armored warhouse and said, General, we were collecting taxes and using those women to pay the taxes. These 2 people came to stop us and even forced us to release those women. The general nodded. Who are the 2 of you? The general asked. Why are you meddling in other people's business? Friends, Tung Qingshan said. At the same time, he smiled and pointed at the young girl named Ashio. This child's friend. Beside the general, there was a handsome young man who was also wearing heavy armor. This young man approached the general in a low voice and said, Father, these 2 people are riding on Scarlet Wind Warhouse and are fearless when facing us. They might be powerful figures. It's better to ask clearly. It's not a good thing to cause a lot of trouble. The general nodded. His son was very smart and had solved many problems for him. My lords, we are collecting taxes, so they have to pay taxes. This is a matter of course. Please leave, the general said with a smile. It was obvious that he didn't want to make things difficult for Tung Qingshan and Ashio. In his opinion, this was considered friendly. Immediately, the general turned to look at the people of Tian village and shouted coldly, I'll give you the time to drink a cup of tea. Hand over those women. Otherwise, the men and women will be captured and made into slaves. When the general said this, the people of Tian village were scared silly. Become slaves? That would be the end. You, which family are you from? A hint of anger appeared on Tung Qingshan's face. Are you from the Wang clan, the Muron clan, or the Li clan? There are only these 3 great clans in the vicinity of Nanshan City. The general was stunned by Tung Qingshan's question. Wang clan, Murong clan, Enli clan? Tung Qingshan's tone really frightened the general. Within the time to drink a cup of tea, Tung Qingshan's cold gaze swept across the general and the group of people. I'll give you the time to drink a cup of tea. Disappear. Otherwise, all officers prepare to become slaves. Previously, the general acted high and mighty and could arbitrarily decide the fate of the people of Tian village. But after a moment, it was the other way around. You. The general's face was filled with anger. Go back and tell your patriarch that from now on, don't come and disturb the villages around the godly Axe Mountain. Just say that this is what Tung Qingshan said. Tung Qingshan said coldly. The majestic army was completely silent. The people of Tian village were also dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Who is Tung Qingshan? The people of Tian village didn't know. Who is Tung Qingshan? The ordinary soldiers didn't know either. Tung Qingshan? The general's expression changed drastically. He looked carefully at the weapon in Tung Qingshan's hand and instantly confirmed his identity. When he recalled what the patriarch said previously, he was so scared that his body trembled. Chapter 366. It was now the winter season, and the winter in Duamu continent was even colder. However, the coldness in the outside world was nothing compared to the coldness in this general's heart. Tung Qingshan? It's him. The general's body trembled uncontrollably. It was a physical reaction caused by extreme fear. Clan head said that this Tung Qingshan is a martial saint of the Golden Dan innate realm. Moreover, even the great elder of the Rising Sun Trading Company was extremely polite to him. Even the Thunderblade martial saint is no match for him. How did I provoke him? The general was stunned. The entire Duamu continent only had a population of 200 to 300 million. How many Golden Dan innate experts could there be? According to the ratio, Yangzhou's Qinghu Island and Gue Yuan sect only had about 10 Golden Dan innate experts. The number of Golden Dan innate experts in Duamu continent, both in the open and in the dark, could be counted on 2 hands. In the world, there are dozens of powerful clans, and there were even more hidden clans. It was known as the 100 races contending for hegemony. There were only so many Golden Dan innate experts, and most of them were occupied by the Rising Sun Trading Company and the Tianfeng clan. Some of the so-called great clans like Danyang City's Fang clan, Nanshan City's Wang clan, and Murong clan, these clans only had 1 or 2 martial sages. Don't expect to be a Golden Dan innate martial saint. In other words, the Golden Dan innate martial saint had the ability to assassinate the patriarch of a large clan and then leave gracefully. Tung Qingshan, who was known as the strongest person below the martial immortal, the first elder, had to treat him as an equal. After the auction, his information was quickly grasped by all the big families. He was deemed as a person who could not be provoked. Mr. Tung, the general said respectfully. Upon hearing the word Mr. Tung, the 1,000 soldiers and nearly 1,000 clansmen of Tian village were dumbfounded. Tung Qingshan sat on the Scarlet Wind War Ho. Mr. Tung, I didn't know that, mister. Before Ting Tung could finish his sentence, his son, who had already jumped off the war puppet, poked him lightly and whispered, Father, hurry up and get off the war puppet. The general had been completely petrified before, but now he immediately came to his senses and hurriedly got down from the war puppet. Mr. Tung, the general opened his mouth. I've already said that you have 10 minutes to leave. Otherwise, all the officers will be sold as slaves. Half of it has already passed. Tung Qingshan said indifferently. The general immediately came to his senses. He turned around and roared, Retreat, retreat quickly. Although the other soldiers did not know who the young man riding on the Scarlet Wind Warhouse was, they could guess that he was a supreme powerhouse. Hiya! Hiya! Everyone quickly fled one by one. In an instant, thousands of camel beasts ran, causing the earth to tremble. You, and you, the 2 of you stay. Tung Qingshan pointed at the 3 people, the general and the captain of the 100-man squad. Yes. The general was very respectful. How would he dare to be disrespectful? General? In some big clans, 1,000 people would form a battalion. The leader of the battalion would be addressed as deputy general, and his subordinates would also respectfully address him as general. Whether it was the deputy general or the higher-ranked ivory general, those ordinary soldiers would flatter him and address him as general. What was a battalion of officers in front of a golden Dan innate expert? Even the patriarch of the Wang clan, Wang Ming, had to respectfully address him as Mr. Tang. Even when addressing Fu Dao, they had to address him as Mr. Fu. It could be said that a golden Dan innate expert completely surpassed the patriarch of an ordinary clan. Of course, a golden Dan innate expert would have to lower his head in front of the Rising Sun Trading Company, the Tianfeng clan, and other super powerful forces. Unfortunately, he was only an officer of a battalion. You bastard! Kneel down, kowtow, and apologize to Mr. Tang. The general walked over and kicked the captain of the 100-man squad, causing the captain to tumble on the snowy ground and swallow a mouthful of snow. Why are you still looking? The general angrily kicked again. At the same time, the general bowed respectfully towards Tung Qingshan and said, Mr. Tung, I was careless and allowed this brat to offend you. Mr. Please instruct me how to punish him. Mr. Tung. The captain finally came to his senses. He hastily kneeled on the snowy ground and pleaded, I offended Mr. Mr. Please spare my life. Spare my life. At this moment, his heart was filled with fear. He knew very well that in this chaotic world, in order to befriend some extremely powerful experts, the patriarchs would often give their concubines to the other party. It was very common for the patriarchs to give their concubines to the other party. If the patriarchs could give their own women away, what was a captain of a 100-man squad? Begging for mercy? Tung Qingshan looked at the captain and said, You were very awe-inspiring just now. The captain was so frightened that his body trembled slightly. You bastard! The general angrily kicked again. Let me ask you, why did you collect taxes so many times? Tung Qingshan frowned and asked. The general said respectfully and helplessly, Mister, there are 3 big clans around Nanshan City. Each of the 3 big clans has an army that fights everywhere, and all they need is silver. Therefore, everyone collects taxes. This way, the taxes have been collected 3 times. I heard from them that this is the 4th time. Tung Qingshan continued to ask. The clans control a large area, but there are only so many troops. Each troop collects taxes separately. Sometimes, problems arise, and the taxes are repeated. The general hastily bowed and said. Hearing this, Tung Qingshan sighed inwardly. When the world was in chaos, the people at the bottom would always be at a disadvantage. In the land of the 9 prefectures, the 8 supreme sects were high above. Although the world was in chaos, the degree of chaos was not great. However, Dwamu continent was different. Its population was much smaller than that of the land of the 9 prefectures, but hundreds of clans fought for hegemony. One could imagine the lives of the poor people at the bottom of the world. According to what I said before, I don't want any troops to disturb the peace of the villages around the godly Axe Mountain. Tung Qingshan ordered. Yes, the general bowed, but then he raised his head and said nervously, Mister, we won't come, but there are 2 other clans. I will arrange this. Tung Qingshan waved his hand and said, You may leave. The general and the captain bowed and kowtowed. Then they quickly mounted their war house. With a sudden lash of the whip, the 2 war house galloped away. The people of Tian village, who were originally in a state of panic and fear, stared at this scene with their mouths agape. Over 1,000 soldiers had actually fled in fear. The high and mighty general and the previously arrogant captain of the 100-man squad were trembling in fear in front of this mysterious youth. Asho, mount the war house, Tung Qingshan ordered. Yes, teacher. Tung Shou immediately leaped onto the Scarlet Wind war house. My lords, among the people of Tian village, the old chief's face was full of joy. He said respectfully and nervously, My lords, I, an old man, didn't know your identities just now. I hope you won't mind. My lords, why don't you come to my village and rest for a while? The old chief of Tion village understood. According to what they said earlier, even the three supreme clans don't dare to offend that spear-wielding youth. If we can form a relationship with him, it would be best if he could take a fancy to one of the ladies in our village. If he becomes the son-in-law of Tion village, who would dare to collect taxes? Who would dare to offend Tion village? At that time, the men of Tion village will also be able to live a good life. In the future, I reckon that the ladies of all the villages will want to marry into Tion village. If such a day really comes, even if I die in the future, I won't have let down the ancestors of Tion village. The old ancestor of Tion village knew how terrifying the chaotic world was. Therefore, he especially wanted to form a good relationship with the spear-wielding youth. There's no need. Tung Qing Shan waved his hand. Asho, thank you. The simple peasant girl shouted hastily. Tung Shou sat on the warhouse and giggled at the peasant girl. No, thanks. He stuttered. Let's go, Tung Qing Shan ordered. The two warhouse immediately dashed away and quickly disappeared into the distance. As soon as Tung Qing Shan and the others left, the open space in Tion village was in an uproar. Previously, everyone was extremely nervous. Now, the people of Tion village, especially the families of the women who were taken away, were extremely excited. The children hugged their mothers, the young men hugged their wives, and the old men and old women hugged their daughters. Mother, wife. Excited cries resounded continuously. Many people looked gratefully in the direction where Tung Qing Shan and the others left. Ashio, come here. Come here. The old chief of Tion village said hastily. Ashio anxiously grabbed her patched robe and walked over with her head lowered. Chief, this child, Ashio, has caused trouble. Ashio's father was also very nervous. He was afraid that the chief would be angry. It's all right. This child did not cause any trouble. The old chief of Tion village, who had just reprimanded Ashio, was now full of smiles. He patted Ashio's head and said, Ashio, where did those two people come from? How did you know them? Ashio anxiously answered, I met Brother Ashio in the forest beside the field after I was working in the fields. Ashio. The old chief of Tion village knew that Ashio was the youth who grabbed the captain of the 100-men squad with lightning speed. What about the young man? The old chief of Tion village asked again. That is Ashio's teacher. Ashio thought for a while and said, Teacher, Ashio is very powerful. The forest beside the field? The Godly Axe Mountain? The old chief of Tion village roughly knew where Tung Qing Shan was. The old chief of Tion village said amiably, Ashio, in the future, go to the forest often and see Ashio. The simple little girl, Ashio, was completely scared out of her wits today. Previously, the girls in the village were captured. Then, thousands of soldiers came over. She was completely scared out of her wits. Now, her mind was in a daze. Previously, the old chief had reprimanded her, but now he was speaking so amiably. Ashio was even more confused. Do you remember what I said? The old chief of Tion village said hastily that Ashio is a benefactor to Tion village. Therefore, you must visit him often. Oh. Ashio nodded repeatedly. Ashio only knew one thing. Even if the old chief didn't say it, she would still go, let alone the old chief's arrangement. Gradually, Ashio, who had woken up from her fright, began to understand the old chief's intention. Old chief, could it be that you want to? Ashio bit her lips. The silly and adorable Ashio appeared in her mind. The old chief of Tion village looked in the direction that Tung Qing Shan left and sighed inwardly. They are lofty figures after all. When will our Tion village be able to produce such a powerful figure? Chapter 367. The world was in chaos, and the people had no way to make a living. This was all caused by the system. Tung Qing Shan was alone and could do nothing about this chaotic world. Even the powerful Emperor Yu and the heavenly Emperor of Qin Mountains could unify the world. However, once they passed away, the world would still fall apart. while Tung Qin Shan and Tang Shou returned to the Crescent Moon Lake and continued to cultivate. In the faraway Eastern Flower region in Wuhan City, Kaka, a luxurious carriage, was moving slowly on the street of Wuhan City. When it arrived at a remote place, it stopped in front of a medicine store called Five Flavors Hall. Nay, the coachman stopped the carriage and jumped off the carriage. He shouted respectfully, "Master, we have arrived at the Five Flavors Hall medicine store." The curtains were lifted, and 3 people walked out of the carriage. They were all wearing felt hats, and their faces were wrapped in fur scarves. Only a pair of eyes could be seen. It was not uncommon to dress like this in cold weather. "Yes, wait here." The 3 people walked down from the carriage. A young man wearing a gray fur coat led the way and entered the Five Flavors Hall. In the Five Flavor Hall, there was only a physician in charge and 2 shop assistants, making the place seem deserted. However, the doctor and the 2 shop assistants were actually surrounding the stove, looking very comfortable. "You 3, are you going to see a doctor?" The doctor glanced at them. In the inner hall, one of the old men behind the young man said in a deep voice, "Inner hall." The doctor's eyes flashed, and he immediately stood up to welcome them. One of the 2 old men behind the young man took out a gold bar and threw it to the doctor. 10 taels of gold for 3 people to enter. Is that okay? Okay. The doctor took the gold bar with a smile and squeezed it. He nodded and took out 3 pieces of black iron from his bosom. He handed them over and said, "You 3, please enter." If an ordinary person in a medicine store saw this, they would probably be shocked. 10 taels of gold was equivalent to over 1,000 taels of silver. What kind of illness cost so much silver? Moreover, it was only to enter the inner hall. The young man and the 2 old men walked in from the side door and saw 2 indifferent men dressed in black standing in the corridor behind them. One of the men dressed in black immediately stopped them. 3 people. The chubby old man handed over 3 pieces of black iron. The black-clothed man took them and nodded. "Follow me." They walked all the way inside, followed a passage, and directly entered a luxurious mansion. Inside this luxurious mansion, there were men wearing black leather jackets and carrying weapons on their backs everywhere. The young man and the other 2 didn't dare to run around. They followed the lead of the black-robed man and advanced forward. Soon, they arrived at a quiet house. "The 3 of you, please wait a moment. The steward will be here soon." The man in black stood at the door and said, "The 3 of you can rest in this house." "Second uncle, is the Hall of Assassins really as powerful as you say?" The youth was a little hesitant. You'll know soon enough," the slightly plump old man said. The tall old man beside him whispered, When you see the Assassin Hall's manager later, he will tell you whether or not the Assassin Hall can handle our clan's matters. However, the Rising Sun Trading Company is behind the Hall of Assassins. If the Rising Sun Trading Company can't do it, then not many other assassin organizations can." Footsteps could be heard. A skinny middle-aged man in a white leather jacket walked in. He had sunken eyes and appeared very cold. "Second steward." The black-robed man bowed respectfully. "Yes." The skinny middle-aged man waved his hand, and the black-robed man immediately left. Only the 3 young men and the steward remained in the house. "The 3 of you don't need to wear masks here, right?" the skinny middle-aged man said with a smile. The 3 young men removed their fur scarves. The skinny middle-aged man smiled as he walked to a seat and sat down. "The 3 of you, please take a seat. May I know what the 3 of you want the Hall of Assassins to help you with?" The second steward looked at the 3 of them carefully. "I want the Hall of Assassins to help me kill someone," the young man said through gritted teeth. The muscles on his face twitched involuntarily. Dong Zhezi of the Dong clan of the Eastern Flower region. Dong Zhezi? The second steward was shocked. "Why? The Hall of Assassins doesn't dare to accept?" The young man sneered. The second steward looked at the young man carefully and revealed a smile. "This should be the 3rd young master of the Jiang clan. Oh, he should be the new patriarch of the Jiang clan. No wonder you want to kill Dong Zhezi." The young man and the other 2 elders were not surprised when the second steward exposed their identities. They all knew the abilities of the Hall of Assassins of the Rising Sun Trading Company. It would be strange if the third young master of the Jiang clan didn't know about them. My Jiang clan wants nothing more than to eat Dongzhi's flesh and drink her blood. The young man's eyes flashed with ferocity. He would never forget those scenes. Those were the most nightmarish days of his life. When he thought of those days, his entire body trembled with anger. The chubby elder beside him immediately patted the young man's shoulder lightly. To kill Dongzhi, you need to be at least a martial saint. The second steward smiled and took out a very thin piece of paper. My Hall of Assassins has the strongest assassins. There are detailed descriptions on this paper. You can choose whoever you want to kill. Of course, the price you have to pay is different. The second steward handed the paper over as he spoke. The young man took it, opened it, and read it with the two elders beside him. As he flipped to the last page, a hint of joy appeared on the young man's face. Peak Martial Saint? The young man revealed a hint of ecstasy. The Hall of Assassins is indeed powerful. The chubby elder beside him praised. It was already good for an ordinary clan to have one martial saint. However, the Hall of Assassins had a few martial saints. This showed the terrifying strength of the Rising Sun Trading Company. The paper only had a description of strength, but not the identity of the assassins. If a peak martial saint attacks, as long as we are careful, we can kill that bitch. The young man couldn't help but reveal a hint of joy on his face. The young man flipped to the last page. Most powerful martial saint. The young man and the two elders beside him were slightly shocked. The tall and skinny elder asked, "Steward, this is a most powerful martial saint? We have never heard of it before." The second steward's face revealed a hint of pride. "Gentlemen, this most powerful martial saint is a rank determined by the Hall of Assassins. In the entire Dwamu continent, no other organization of assassins has such a powerful expert. I can tell you that if this most powerful martial saint attacks, unless he has reached the martial immortal realm." Could it be the Rising Sun Martial Saint? The young man couldn't help but exclaim. The second steward's face darkened as he scolded. "It is none of your business who the expert behind this is." The two elders hastily pulled the young man. The young man also knew that he had said the wrong thing. "I can tell you that if the most powerful martial saint attacks, there will be no problem." The second steward was very confident. "That bitch." An ominous glint flashed in the young man's eyes. He clenched his teeth and said, "If you want to hire someone, hire the most powerful one. I want to hire the most powerful martial saint to capture that bitch alive and bring her to our Jiang clan. Tell me, what's the price?" The young man was already prepared to be ruthlessly ripped off. The two elders beside him didn't utter a word. The second steward smiled and shook his head. "What kind of status does this most powerful martial saint have? He doesn't care about money. There's only one way to hire him. If you have one of the 36 stone inscriptions left behind by the godly axe deity, you the Great, you must give the stone inscription to this most powerful martial saint for 3 years. After 3 years, he will return it to you. My Hall of Assassins will vouch for it. Of course, it will be troublesome if you want the most powerful martial saint to capture Dongzhi alive. You may need to add some gold," the second steward added. In the past few days, there had been a few business deals that wanted to hire the most powerful martial saint. Unfortunately, they didn't have the 36 stone inscriptions. The second steward followed the instructions of the higher-ups and said so, as usual. After all, they didn't know who had the 36 stone inscriptions. However, there were 36 stone inscriptions in the world. If they randomly chose a few clans, they might have one. The stone inscriptions of the 36 splitting mountain forms. The young man was shocked and couldn't help but turn to look at the two elders beside him. Currently, the three of them held the highest authority in the Jiang clan. Their Jiang clan did have a stone inscription. However, this stone inscription was very precious and they couldn't bear to part with it. "The three of you, think about it carefully." The second steward smiled and walked out of the house. At the same time, he closed the door. Only the three of them were left in the house. second uncle, sixth uncle. The young man was slightly hesitant. This stone inscription will be returned after 3 years. However, I'm worried that the Rising Sun Trading Company will be jealous of this stone inscription. Obviously, they care about their reputation and will definitely return it to us. However, after returning it, they might be ruthless. The other 2 elders were also worried about this point. It wasn't a big deal to lend the stone inscription for 3 years. Hong the slightly plump elder narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "This 36 splitting mountain forms stone inscription has been rumored to be miraculous. However, our Jiang clan has had it for so long, yet no one has been able to practice any exceptional axe art with it. A stone inscription isn't very useful. I think let's do it this way. Let the most powerful martial saint look at it for 3 years. After 3 years, we won't return it. Let the Rising Sun Trading Company auction it for us." This time, our Jiang clan suffered a great loss. If we want to make a comeback, expand our army, and recruit more people, we need money. A stone inscription is useless to us. Why don't we exchange it for some gold? Rumor has it that the previous set of blunt vanadium stone inscriptions were sold for more than 500,000 taels of gold. Logically speaking, this stone inscription shouldn't be any less valuable than that. When these words were spoken, the other 2 nodded slightly. Yes, let's do it this way. The young man's gaze turned cold. That bitch Dong Zhizi tortured my father to death in that dungeon. Even if I hadn't escaped early, I would have been tortured to death by her. That bitch, if we don't capture her, I won't be able to take it lying down. I can't take that lying down. He would never forget the nightmarish days after he was captured. Whether it was his dignity or his body, they were all humiliated like never before. After the young man escaped, he had nightmares for more than a month. Every day, he dreamed of that scene that drove him crazy. That bitch. I will torture her to death with my own hands. I will make her regret it. The young man immediately stood up and walked towards the vice supervisor. They agreed. If they wanted to invite someone, they would invite the strongest, the most powerful martial saint. In the evening, at the foot of the godly Axe Mountain, by the Crescent Moon Lake, smoke curled up. Tung Qingshan was walking in the forest. With every step, his figure flashed, and he darted into the distance. Although he seemed slow, he was strangely fast. No, something is still not right. Tung Qingshan shook his head. At this moment, he was pondering how to create a Qinggong that belonged to the Tao of Earth Elemental Tao, based on the Tao of Earth Elemental that he had comprehended. Currently, Qinggong was Tung Qingshan's weakness. Suddenly, many figures approached from afar. "Mr. Tung," they shouted from afar. Tung Qingshan cast a glance into the distance. It was the group of people led by the 6th elder of the Rising Sun Trading Company. He couldn't help but smile and say, "6th elder, you came so late at night. Could it be that you have some good news?" Chapter 368. Tung Qingshan had guessed it as well. It would be strange if nothing had happened since he had rushed here in the evening. Haha, it's good news about the 36 stone inscriptions. The 6th elder walked over with a smile. 36 stone inscriptions. Tung Qingshan's eyes brightened. "Come, 6th elder, let's talk inside." The stove was burning in the room, making it very warm. Tung Qingshan and the 6th elder sat opposite each other. 6th elder, you mean the Hall of Assassins under the Rising Sun Trading Company accepted a mission for me to kill people. Tung Qingshan frowned. The 6th elder hastily explained, "It's a mission the Hall of Assassins accepted. However, it's not to kill people, but to capture them alive. Capture them alive and bring them to the Hall of Assassins. There's no difference between capturing them alive and killing them." Tung Qingshan began to ponder. In his previous life, Tung Qingshan was an assassin of the Red Organization. Tung Qingshan didn't dare to disobey the organization's orders. However, in this life, the days he spent in Tung Jia village filled with familial love caused Tung Qingshan's thoughts to change slightly. To those who wanted to kill him and those who tried to stop him. For example, the crazy army on the prairie or the people from Qinghu Island who wanted to kill him. Tung Shan wouldn't show any mercy. However, to people he didn't know, who do you want me to capture? Tung Shan asked again. Dong Zhizi, the sixth elder said. Who is Dong Zhizi? Tung Shan knew nothing about this person. The sixth elder chuckled and said, Mr. Tung, you really don't care about the outside world and only focus on cultivation. This Dong Zhizi is also an important figure in the Eastern Flower region. How could a woman become the current head of the Dong clan in Shuangshan City? Furthermore, female family heads are relatively rare in this world. Tung Shan's heart stirred. Female clan head? Tung Shan admired the fact that a woman could become the clan head. Usually, this kind of person would have to overcome many difficulties. That's right. Moreover, she's an inborn martial saint. The sixth elder shook his head and said, Of course. In front of Mr. Tung, she's just a child who has just learned how to walk. Why do you want to capture her? Tung Shan asked. Do you know who issued the mission? Sixth elder explained. It's the Jiang family. The Jiang clan was also a super clan in the Donghua domain. However, during the battle with the Dong clan, they fell into a trap, and many members of the Jiang clan's direct line of descent were captured. Even the head of the Jiang family was captured. Later on, the Jiang clan also sent out experts to rescue the Jiang clan's third young master. Everyone else is dead. And in this battle, the Jiang family has also lost its foundation. The Jiang clan hates the Dong clan to the bone. Especially that third young master of the Jiang family. Rumor has it that he has been tortured in prison. Sixth elder laughed. That's why they disregarded everything and asked Mr. to capture Dong Zhizi alive and hand her over to their master to be dealt with. Tung Shan came to a sudden realization and nodded. It was normal for the two clans to scheme in the struggle for supremacy. Tung Shan didn't think that either side was right or wrong. What is Dong Zhizi's character like? Tung Shan asked. This? I don't really know. Sixth elder shook his head. All right, there's something interesting about this Dong Zhizi. She married 9 men. She married? Tung Shan frowned in surprise. Haha, sixth elder laughed. Yes, she married them. In this world, it's common for men to have multiple wives and 4 concubines. However, this Dong Zhizi is very domineering after becoming the patriarch. She actually married 9 men and claimed that they were her male concubines. Tung Shan was stunned. This made Tung Shan think of the first female emperor in his hometown in his previous life. TSK. Interesting. Tung Shan nodded. Mr. Tung, do you accept this mission or not? Sixth elder inquired. A smile appeared on Tung Shan's face as he replied, I'm a little curious about this Dong Zhizi. However, whether I accept this mission or not, I can't make a decision for now. How about this? Tell me where Dong Zhizi lives, and I will make a trip there. I will make a decision when I get there. All right. Sixth elder chuckled and said, Mr. Tung, you can make your own decision. If Mr. Tung captures Dong Zhizi, it's best if you hand her over to the Rising Sun restaurant or the 5 Flavor Hall medicine store in Wuhan City of the Eastern Flower region. All right. Tung Shan smiled and nodded. Since that's the case, I will take my leave first. Sixth elder stood up with a smile. Seeing that Tung Shan was about to stand up, sixth elder hastily smiled and said, Mr. Tung, there's no need to send me off. Lady June, everyone is looking over here. Li Jun, who had already prepared dinner, couldn't help but smile. After sixth elder left, Tung Shan and the others sat around the table and began to eat. Big brother Tung, I heard what you said to sixth elder just now. Are you going to accept this mission? Li Jun stared at Tung Shan. To Tung Shan, the 36 inscriptions were indeed very important. Every inscription contained the imprint left behind by Emperor Yu, which could save Tung Shan a lot of time and allow him to return to the continent of the 9 prefectures earlier. Little June, do you think I should accept? Tung Shan stared at Li Jun. Li Jun hesitated for a moment before saying, From what I heard just now, I feel that this Dong Zhizi should be a very capable woman. Actually, I quite admire this kind of person. However, in my opinion, If she is a good person and treats her people well, then forget about it. Tung Qingshan pondered and didn't say anything. I'm just saying, Big Brother Tung, you have to make the decision yourself. Li Jun hastily added. Obviously, she was worried that she would affect Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan couldn't help but raise his head and smile when he saw Li Jun's slightly perturbed expression. Coachman Old Wang and Little Ping didn't dare to interrupt at the dinner table. As for Tung Shou, he was silly and simple-minded. He only knew that he shouldn't kill those who were good to him, but he should kill those who weren't good to him. Late at night, in the cave of the Godly Axe Mountain, iron leaf fruits emitting a green glow were placed in the cave of the mountain. Tung Qingshan was sitting cross-legged in meditation. In front of him were 36 inscriptions. It was already late at night. Li Jun, Little Ping, and the others had all fallen asleep. You big guy, why did you stick your head in here? Tung Qingshan looked at the passageway at the side. The six-legged blade-like Qi had already stretched its head towards Tung Qingshan and the others. Part of its body was in the passageway, while the other part was in its own nest. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Qi's two protruding golden eyes stared at Tung Qingshan with its black pupils. Tung Qingshan shook his head and snickered. Ever since he came here, the spiritual Qi of the heavens and the earth was no longer chaotic. Instead, it was very calm. The six-legged blade-like Qi was not a fool. It naturally wanted to get closer to the center of the spiritual Qi of the heavens and the earth. Therefore, it tried its best to get closer to the center of the spiritual Qi of the heavens and the earth without offending Tung Qingshan. This six-legged blade-like Qi doesn't think highly of me. Tung Qingshan sensed the meaning in the six-legged blade-like Qi's eyes. That's right. If I fight it head-on, I won't be able to defeat it. In the cave of the mountain, the space is narrow. I can still fight it. If I go outside, I will be at a disadvantage. Tung Qingshan really wanted to subdue the six-legged blade-like Qi. When he returned to the land of the 9 prefectures in the future, Tung Qingshan could imagine that there would be many battles and killings in the future. With the six-legged blade-like Qi as a helper, the results would be very good. Unfortunately, an old demonic beast that was at least 1,000 years old, and its strength was not weaker than his. Subduing it was just a dream. Demonic beasts were all very arrogant. On the morning of the next day, Tung Qingshan and the others had already left the underground cave and arrived at the Crescent Moon Lake. Because Tung Qingshan was about to depart for the Eastern Flower region, Li Jun and the others were sending Tung Qingshan off. Blue Luan will stay here to prevent the six-legged blade-like Qi from having any ideas. Tung Qingshan smiled as he looked at Li Jun, Little Ping, Tung Shou, and Old Wang. It's only a few thousand li from here to Shuangshan City in the Eastern Flower region. The whole Gale Eagle is also an innate demonic beast. It could travel 10,000 li in a day. Even if it's slightly slower, I will probably be back by tomorrow. Big Brother Tung, be careful on the road, Li Jun said softly. Li Jun's request caused Tung Qingshan to recall a scene from his previous life in a daze. In the past, when Tung Qingshan was on a mission in the assassin organization, Kitten would come up and give him a kiss and a reminder. When Kitten was on a mission, Tung Qingshan would also send Kitten off in the same way. A wife sending off her husband, and a husband sending off his wife. That scene had already been deeply engraved in the depths of his memory. Big Brother Tung? Li Jun shouted. Yes, wait for me to come back. Tung Qingshan looked at the whole Gale Eagle and patted its back lightly. The whole Gale Eagle immediately spread its wings excitedly and flapped a few times, stirring up a layer of snow. It then soared into the sky. When the whole Gale Eagle reached a height of 20 zhang, which was higher than the canopy of many trees, Tung Qingshan held the reincarnation spear in his hand and leaped up abruptly, landing on the back of the whole Gale Eagle. Tung Qingshan pointed to the northeast. Screech! A cheerful cry resounded through the heavens and the earth. The whole Gale Eagle immediately flew toward the northeast at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it disappeared into the distant horizon. Shuangshan City of the Eastern Flower region was one of the 36 major cities in the world. Tung Qingshan had a detailed map of Duanmu continent. Relying on various reference points and the whole Gale Eagle's astonishing speed, he arrived at Shuangshan City, which was several thousand li away by noon. Letting the whole Gale Eagle fly freely in the surroundings, Tung Qingshan entered Shuangshan City alone, in the backyard of the Rising Sun restaurant in Shuangshan City. It had to be said that the Rising Sun restaurant was much more famous than the Five Flavor Hall. Tung Qingshan found the Rising Sun restaurant very easily. Greetings, revered Tung. The manager of the restaurant bowed respectfully. Tung Qingshan smiled and nodded. The manager had a fat head and big ears. He smiled and said, I just received news that revered Tung would come to Shuangshan City. I didn't expect revered Tung to arrive so soon. May I know what orders Lord Revered Tung has? I want a detailed map of Shuangshan City that shows the location of the Dong clan. Tung Qingshan ordered. Yes. The manager hastily arranged for the people to follow. Give it to me when you find it. I'll have lunch in your restaurant. As Tung Qingshan spoke, he walked toward the restaurant. The manager hastily accompanied him and said, Lord Revered Tung, the third floor is full. Please wait for a moment. I will ask them to come down. No need. Just find a random seat on the first floor. At this moment, Tung Qingshan was still pondering, should he capture Dong Zhizi or not? Chapter 369. On the first floor of the Rising Sun restaurant, Tung Qingshan found a seat by the window. Just make something to eat. 3 dishes, a soup, and a pot of wine, Tung Qingshan instructed. The manager immediately arranged for the chef to make some exquisite dishes. Clang, clang, sounds that sounded like the beating of gongs and drums rang out. The sounds came from the street outside the restaurant. Tung Qingshan turned his head and saw that on the street, which was wide enough for 10 hunchbacked beasts to walk side by side, all the pedestrians hurriedly moved to the sides. Make way, make way, make way. Shouts of reprimand rang out from afar. The dense sounds of hooves caused the ground to tremble. Following which, a total of 6 knights riding on hunchbacked beasts advanced side by side. Behind them, there were also knights who raised their banners high up in the air. The banners unfurled in the wind had a large Dong character on them. Over 200 knights advanced. After more than 200 cavalrymen advanced, there was a luxurious carriage with 6 wheels and 4 warhouse pulling it. The carriage was made of dark red wood with golden edges. It looked very luxurious. This is the Dong clan's fleet? Tung Qingshan raised his wine cup and praised inwardly. How extravagant. TSK, TSK. This is Queen Dong's hunting battalion. It is said that the carriage is worth hundreds of thousands of taels of silver. What do you know? The carriage is made of the dark incense wood, which can only be found in the blazing flame territory. There's so much dark incense wood. Even if you don't consider the craftsmanship, it has to be worth over 10,000 taels of gold, which is equivalent to over 1,000,000 taels of silver. The 4 warhouse in front are all Snow Heavenly Warhouse, which means only the White Fur Warhouse. One of them is worth at least 10,000 taels of silver. Who is in the carriage? Queen Dong? Not necessarily. Maybe it is the little queen. There was a lot of discussion in the restaurant. Everyone exclaimed in surprise, and this allowed Tung Qingshan to learn a lot from them. Ostentatious and extravagant. This was Tung Qingshan's first impression of Dong Zhizi. I'm really King unlucky. A skinny old man with dust all over his body and a pair of pants that looked like they were torn to the knees cursed in a low voice and walked into the Rising Sun restaurant. The restaurant's female attendant quickly went forward and said with a smile, Dear customer, the first, second, and third floors of our restaurant are all full. Dear customer, why don't you wait for a while? This person is so unlucky. He doesn't even have a seat to eat. The skinny old man was very unhappy and dissatisfied. Brother, if you don't mind, come and sit here, Tung Qingshan, who was sitting next to the window, said with a smile. The lean old man turned around in surprise, and Tung Qingshan also smiled and raised his cup. Haha, looks like my luck today isn't too bad. The lean old man smiled as he walked towards Tung Ching Shan and sat opposite to Tung Ching Shan. Tung Ching Shan ordered, "Add a pair of chopsticks and a cup." Yes. The female attendant had received instructions from the manager and knew that Tung Ching Shan had a special status. Hence, she immediately prepared another set of cutlery. "Brother, my surname is Wang. Thank you in advance." After the lean old man sat down, he took the chopsticks from the female attendant and ate 2 mouthfuls of the dishes. Then, he poured himself a cup of wine and drank it. Ah, the dishes and wine are really good. I've been here many times, but I've never tasted such good wine. Tung Ching Shan smiled and said, "Brother Wang, the carriages of the Dong clan should have passed by just now, right?" Tung Ching Shan was very clear that once Dong Zhizi was captured alive and handed over to the Jiang clan, her fate would be very tragic. Therefore, Tung Ching Shan had to find out what kind of person Dong Zhizi was. "That's the Dong clan's hunting team." The lean old man touched his nose and cursed in a low voice, "This group of arrogant bastards. Just now I walked to the side of the street and was even bumped by a hunchback beast. My old bones almost fell off. How unlucky." The lean old man looked at Tung Ching Shan in surprise and asked, "Brother, are you an outsider?" "Yes, an outsider who just arrived in Shuangshan City." Tung Ching Shan nodded. "That's why. Who among us locals doesn't know about the Dong clan's queen?" "TSK, TSK." The lean old man sighed. Then, he realized something and hastily said, "This Queen Dong is the patriarch of the Dong clan." "Is the patriarch of the Dong clan in the carriage?" Tung Ching Shan asked. "Who knows?" The lean old man shook his head and said, "It's Queen Dong's daughter. She has the same temperament as her mother. Queen Dong likes to hunt, and so does her daughter. It could be Queen Dong or her daughter in the carriage." "Forget it. Let's not talk about Queen Dong. If we talk too much, we might get into trouble. Queen Dong is very powerful." The lean old man lowered his voice. "Brother, this is my first time in Shuangshan City. Tell me, is the patriarch of the Dong clan really so scary that you all call her Queen Dong?" Tung Ching Shan asked. "TSK, TSK, little brother." The lean old man put down his wine cup, craned his neck, and said in a low voice, "This Queen Dong is not an ordinary person. Her methods are ruthless. Whether it's her subordinates or the people in her area, everyone knows how powerful she is. The flowers and trees in her backyard are all made of human flesh fertilizer." "Human flesh fertilizer?" Tung Ching Shan was surprised. "Of course." The lean old man hastily said, "This Queen Dong likes to torture people. I heard that even one of her generals accidentally offended her and was whipped to death by her. He was lucky. The unlucky ones were all sent to Queen Dong's secret prison." "Secret prison?" Tung Ching Shan was surprised. "All the big clans have their own prisons. Is Queen Dong's secret prison really that scary?" "That's true," the lean old man said in a low voice. "Queen Dong's methods of torture are very cruel. There are blood camel riding and armor wearing from her mansion." "What's blood camel riding?" Tung Ching Shan hastily asked. The lean old man laughed proudly and said in a low voice, "This blood camel riding is not for you to ride a red-haired camel. It's for the prisoner to take off his pants and tie his hands. Then, the prisoner has to sit on a wedge made of iron with his legs apart. Do you know about wooden wedges?" Tung Ching Shan nodded. The wooden wedges were triangular in cross-section. "That iron wedge. Sit on it with your legs apart. That's painful." Blood flowed and dyed the iron wedge red. That's why it's called blood camel riding. There are also tortures such as armor wearing and iron comb. Forget it. Let's not talk about those disgusting things while we eat. The lean old man shook his head. In short, this Queen Dong is really ruthless. In the Dong mansion, all the maids and servants tremble in fear in front of her. It's said that when she creates some kind of torture, she can't wait to find the prisoner. Sometimes, she catches some servants she doesn't like and tries it out. Tung Ching Shan frowned as he listened. "Brother, continue eating. I'm going out for a while." Tung Ching Shan carried the reincarnation spear's holster on his back and walked out. "Little brother, don't play with me. Don't tell me you didn't pay." The old man was so scared that he stood up. The moment he ate the dishes, he knew that they must be very expensive. "Dear customer, don't worry. That lord has already paid." The maid ran over. The old man's face turned red when he heard this. With the holster on his back, Tung Ching Shan walked alone on the street. No wonder the sixth elder said that the Jiang clan members were captured and tortured. They hate this Dong Zhizi to the core. Tung Ching Shan sighed. No wonder they asked me to help. No matter what, such a vicious person deserves to die. Tung Ching Shan had already made up his mind. Captured Dong Zhizi alive. Relying on the map of the city given by the manager, Tung Ching Shan soon arrived at the Dong Mansion amidst the bustling crowd. The Dong Mansion was a luxurious mansion that occupied a vast area. Just the main gate alone was over 10 zhang wide. There were dozens of soldiers standing guard at the main gate. "Halt! This is the Dong Mansion. Idlers, stop!" Immediately, a soldier wielding a long spear shouted at the strolling Tung Ching Shan. Tung Ching Shan grinned and continued walking. The expressions of the soldiers immediately turned serious. "Brat, are you courting death?" 10 soldiers surrounded him. Tung Ching Shan shook his head and smiled. Phew! Leaving behind a blurry afterimage, Tung Ching Shan passed through the gaps in the crowd. The soldiers watched in shock as the afterimage disappeared. When they turned to look, Tung Ching Shan had already entered the mansion. The strangest thing was, Tung Ching Shan seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll, but every step he took covered a distance of 7 to 8 zhang. His figure blurred a few times before he completely disappeared from their line of sight. The soldiers looked at each other with fear in their eyes. "Assassin! Assassin!" The group of soldiers immediately began to shout loudly. "Assassin!" The shouts resounded throughout the entire Dong Mansion. Even the people on the streets outside the Dong Mansion were in an uproar. "Assassin! Assassin!" There were many patrolling soldiers in the Dong Mansion, as well as many powerful hanger-ons. When the shrill cry of "assassin" rang out, the entire Dong Mansion instantly became noisy. "Halt!" When Tung Ching Shan heard the shout, he smiled and continued to walk forward. At this moment, Tung Ching Shan was executing the Qing Gong body art created through the Tao of Earth Element. Of course, this Qing Gong body art was still in the initial stage, so its speed wasn't as fast as Tung Ching Shan had imagined. Even so, it was faster than the speed of an ordinary Golden Dan innate Qing Gong. "The assassin is over here. Over here." The shouts attracted a large number of soldiers towards the source of the voice. However, many of them could only watch as Tung Ching Shan's figure blurred a few times before disappearing from their line of sight. His speed was too fast. His body art was too strange. "Haha, Dong Zhizi, you slut. Did you hear that? Someone is here to assassinate you. Ha! I've said it before, even the heavens will come to deal with a slut like you. Now, someone is here to kill you. Ha!" The laughter was slightly strange, as if there was a hole in the mouth. Tung Ching Shan immediately followed the sound and strolled towards it. "Capture him! Kill him!" Amidst the encirclement, Tung Ching Shan easily arrived at a garden. "Third brother Tai, you have a backbone. You even scolded me after I pulled out 9 of your teeth. All right, continue. Pull out 9 more teeth. Slowly. There's still 6 hours until evening. Pull out 9 teeth in 6 hours. You can't be too fast or too slow." A voice that seemed to be high and mighty sounded. "You slut. Even if man doesn't deal with you, the heavens will deal with you. Don't you dare. Woo! Oh!" Cries of pain sounded. There were many experts in this beautiful garden. However, none of them stopped Tung Ching Shan. Tung Ching Shan looked at the beautiful woman in red who looked to be in her 30s or 40s. The beautiful woman sat on a high chair with a row of experts standing behind her. At this moment, her pair of foxy eyes swept over Tung Ching Shan. "Are you Dong Zhizi?" Tung Ching Shan asked indifferently. 2 chapters completed, Tomato is calling for some monthly votes. The demand for monthly votes is very high. If you have monthly votes, please support Tomato. If you don't, recommendation votes are good too. Hee, Tomato loves votes the most. Yes, yes. Chapter 370. In this garden, the ground was paved with neatly arranged blue stones. There was no snow on the ground. Only the flowers, grasses, and trees had accumulated some snow. Ah, woo-woo! Low cries of pain came from the side. A muscular one-eyed man was tied to a metal pillar. Someone was using a pair of metal pliers to bend metal to reach into the one-eyed man's mouth. Fresh blood flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. Of course, at this moment, almost everyone's gaze was on Tung Ching-shan. Protect the patriarch. Capture the assassin. Shouts rose and fell one after another. Rumble. A large number of soldiers and hangers-on rushed into the garden. Stop! A clear, loud, and powerful command came from the mouth of the beautiful woman sitting high on the chair. Immediately, all the experts in the garden stopped attacking Tung Ching-shan. However, they still surrounded Tung Ching-shan, ready to attack at any moment. Tung Ching-shan was interested. He lifted his head to look at Dong Zhizi and said, "Female patriarch? Keeping male concubines? Does she enjoy torturing and killing people?" Tung Ching-shan scrutinized Dong Zhizi. What kind of female heroine was she? Dong Zhizi had a voluptuous figure and a rosy complexion. Her eyes, in particular, shone faintly and were very foxy. Dong Zhizi's eyes lit up when she saw Tung Ching-shan. She praised, "What a handsome young man." In Dong Zhizi's opinion, Tung Ching-shan had a much better temperament than her male concubines. Compared to Tung Ching-shan, those male concubines were nothing. "You're looking for me?" Dong Zhizi sat on the throne. Her lips curled into a smile. She rubbed her hands together and said with a smile, "You are indeed courageous. You actually dared to assassinate me. There are countless people who want to assassinate me, but I, Dong Zhizi, am still alive today. However, I'm a very forgiving person. I will pardon you. However, from today onwards, you will be my 10th male concubine." Dong Zhizi's voice reverberated in the garden. Tung Ching-shan was stunned. "Male concubine? I became her male concubine. This Dong Zhizi really doesn't know that she's about to die." Tung Ching-shan shook his head inwardly. At the same time, he strode towards Dong Zhizi and said with a smile, "Dong Zhizi, you old witch. You're at death's door, yet you're still clueless. What a joke." Dong Zhizi's expression changed slightly when she heard this. Old witch. She, Dong Zhizi, hated it the most when people mentioned her age. As an innate expert, Dong Zhizi's appearance was fixed at the age of 30. It was the age when she was at her most enchanting. Although she was almost 60 years old, it was hard to tell from her appearance. "Take him down." Dong Zhizi's expression darkened as she shouted. However, she quickly added, "Don't take his life." "Yes." Immediately, the mighty group of people who had originally surrounded Tung Ching-shan responded in unison. Each of them was like a ferocious lion or tiger, wielding their weapons as they charged towards Tung Ching-shan. How interesting. Tung Ching-shan looked at the inner strength experts and soldiers who wanted to make a contribution. He shook his head and said, "Forget it. I won't bother with them." Hundreds of people surrounded Tung Ching-shan. However, Tung Ching-shan's figure was erratic, flickering like a ghost. Every time he flickered, he would travel a distance of several zhang. Don't even think about escaping. Ha! Two guests simultaneously slapped their palms at Tung Ching-shan. However, Tung Ching-shan disappeared in a flash, and the two of them slapped him instead. This scene caused the expression of Dong Zhizi, who was sitting high on the throne, to change. What a powerful movement technique. Just by looking at this movement technique, this person is most likely an innate martial saint expert. To think that a martial saint would come to assassinate me. However, I don't know this person at all. Many clans had attended the auction of the blunt vanadium stone tablets in Nanshan City. "Kill him for me," Dong Zhizi shouted sternly. Upon hearing the order, the mercenaries and soldiers, who had their hands and feet tied, all roared. Sharp arrows, concealed weapons, poisons. Every single one of them flew towards Tung Ching-shan, covering the sky and the earth. Swish! Tung Ching-shan took 3 consecutive steps. each of which covered a distance of 8 zhang. He walked out of the crowd's encirclement and arrived less than 10 zhang away from Dongzhi. Old witch, do you think these people with mediocre martial arts can kill me? Tung Qingshan smiled as he continued to advance. He was neither impatient nor impatient. His steps were not fast either. Go. Dongzhi waved her hand. Immediately, the group of experts standing in a row behind her drew their sabers at the same time. Clang, clang. The sound of sabers being unsheathed rang out. There were a total of 16 experts, and all of them wielded sabers. Die! The 16 experts pounced forward. Tung Qingshan took a step and covered a distance of 2 zhang. He easily passed through the group of 16 experts. The experts' expressions changed drastically as they surrounded Tung Qingshan with even more ferocity. Tung Qingshan smiled and took another step, covering another 2 zhang. In Tung Qingshan's eyes, the surrounding experts did not seem to exist at all. At this moment, he was only 2 zhang away from Dongzhi. Dongzhi slapped the throne and turned into a red blur as she retreated at an extreme speed. Haha, Dongzhi, to think that you would have such a day. Huh? The one-eyed man who was tied to the metal rod howled excitedly. Brother, Tai-san, thank you. Huh? Even though many of his teeth had been plucked out, the one-eyed man was extremely excited. Tung Qingshan's figure made a strange curve as though he was a loach slipping through water. Old witch, don't run. Tung Qingshan's voice was like rolling thunder as it resounded in Dongzhi's ears. Dongzhi only saw a flash before her eyes, and Tung Qingshan appeared in front of her. Dongzhi's face paled as she stared at the youth in front of her. Who hired you to deal with me? Dongzhi retreated 2 steps. My Dong clan will pay you double, no, triple the amount of money that other people paid you. Tell me, my Dong clan will really pay you. You should know how much wealth my Dong clan has. We can definitely afford it. You can't afford it. Tung Qingshan smiled as he stepped forward. His right hand was like a sharp claw as he grabbed at Dongzhi. Dongzhi's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. She swiped at her waist, and a purple radiance lit up. It was Dongzhi's personal sword. At the same time, a black lightning shot out from Dongzhi's left hand towards Tung Qingshan. Swish! Tung Qingshan waved his left hand and caught a diamond-shaped concealed weapon. His right hand easily grabbed the purple flexible sword. You! Dongzhi turned pale with fright. The purple-colored innate true origin on her body burst forth as she desperately tried to pull out the purple flexible sword. However, Tung Qingshan's right hand held onto the purple flexible sword like an iron hoop, preventing the purple flexible sword from being pulled out. How can his hand grab a divine weapon? Dongzhi was stunned. I'm a martial saint. How can he grab my sharp sword with his bare hands? Who is he? You want to play concealed weapons with me? Tung Qingshan exerted strength in his left hand, and the diamond-shaped concealed weapon was crushed into powder by Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan took a step forward. Bang! Tung Qingshan's fist smashed into Dongzhi's abdomen at lightning speed. It was so fast that Dongzhi didn't even have time to dodge. Dongzhi was knocked back a few steps by Tung Qingshan's punch. Dongzhi's face instantly turned pale as she spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Dongzhi's expression changed drastically as she screamed, You destroyed my Dantian. Enough with the nonsense. Tung Qingshan's figure flashed and easily grabbed onto Dongzhi's shoulders. With a little force, he dislocated Dongzhi's shoulder bones. Dongzhi's arms hung limply at her sides. Let's go. Tung Qingshan carried Dongzhi on his shoulders and immediately prepared to leave. You bastard, you bastard. Release me now, or else you'll definitely regret it. Dongzhi screamed. My Dong clan will definitely not let you off. She was caught in an instant, and even the innate true origin that she had painstakingly cultivated was completely crippled in an instant. Dongzhi was completely enraged. Release the Patriarch. A group of soldiers and hangers-on wielded weapons, but they were hesitant. They had all witnessed Tung Qingshan's strength. Even though they knew that they had no way of dealing with Tang Qingshan, they couldn't just watch as he slipped away. Could they? Who dares to be impudent in my Dong clan? An angry roar reverberated in the sky above the Dong clan, like the rumbling of heavenly thunder. A black shadow shot over from afar. Tang Qingshan, who was carrying Dong Zhizi's body, cast a glance at the approaching person, shook his head, and smiled. With a leap, he flew up to the roof. "Release me now," Dong Zhizi screamed. Tang Qingshan carried Dong Zhizi's body and walked on the roof. He said coldly, "Old witch, if you continue to spout nonsense, I'll sell you to a brothel." Dong Zhizi's face turned deathly pale when she heard this. She was a high and mighty female patriarch who was addressed as Queen Dong. Sell her to a brothel? That was worse than killing her. Die! The black shadow shot over, and a sword shadow lit up. Tang Qingshan's figure flashed in a strange manner, swimming Pisces body technique. Easily dodging to the side of the black shadow, Tang Qingshan kicked out with lightning speed. Pum! The kick landed on the black shadow's waist. The terrifying force of the kick, which weighed hundreds of thousands of jin, sent the black shadow flying down like a shooting star. Pum! 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 The black shadow only stopped after smashing through a tree, a wall, and leaving a deep ravine on the ground. How is this possible? Dong Zhizi widened her eyes. That person was the #1 expert of the Dong clan, a martial saint expert who had reached the true Dan innate realm. Sent flying with a kick. One move? Ha! Slut, to think that you would have such a day. Ha! The one-eyed man who was tied to the metal rod raised his head and laughed. Blood flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. Who is he? The black shadow sat up with difficulty and watched as Tang Qingshan carried Dong Zhizi's body and disappeared from his sight. The other soldiers and guests were completely dumbfounded as they watched in a daze. Only the one-eyed man who was tied up raised his head and shouted excitedly. His laughter resounded in the sky above the Dong clan. A moment later, cheerful cries resounded throughout the heavens and earth. Tang Qingshan sat on the back of the whole Gale Eagle while carrying Dong Zhizi's body and rapidly flew towards the south. Chapter 371. The speed of the whole Gale Eagle was extremely fast. Sitting on its back, the wind was also very strong. At this moment, Dong Zhizi's dantian had been destroyed, so there was no way she could sit steadily on the eagle's back. Furthermore, the eagle's back wasn't big, so Tang Qingshan could only carry her on his back and hold onto her legs. "Mister, there is no enmity between you and my Dong clan." Dong Zhizi lay on Tang Qingshan's back and smiled. "You came to capture me this time, but you didn't hurt my subordinates. You're a kind person. Mister, wasn't it for money that someone hired you to capture me? Mister, just name a number. Trust me, Dong Zhizi, can still afford it." After witnessing Tang Qingshan's strength, Dong Zhizi could only resort to a soft approach. "Shut up," Tang Qingshan shouted coldly. At the same time, he frowned and thought to himself, "I'm going to enter Wuan City while carrying Dong Zhizi. Entering the city while carrying a woman. I'm afraid people will start pointing at me. If only I had a horse carriage." Unfortunately, the whole Gale Eagle is parked outside the city. There's no way to hire a horse carriage outside the city gates. Tang Qingshan was vexed. How was he going to enter Wuan City? Carrying an enchanting woman and swaggering in alone? He would probably be surrounded by passers-by. This method wouldn't work. Carrying Dong Zhizi, sitting on the back of the whole Gale Eagle, and directly flying into the city, there would probably be even more onlookers. He wanted to hire a horse carriage, but there was no place outside the city to hire one. Sorry for the trouble. Tang Qingshan shook his head. Suddenly, Tang Qingshan felt a soft sensation on his back. He frowned and said, "Dong Zhizi, are you courting death?" Dong Zhizi, who was lying on Tang Qingshan's back, was *****. Dong Zhizi had been cultivating inner strength since she was young and reached the innate realm when she was in her 30s. In terms of appearance and figure, she was definitely at her most enchanting stage. Furthermore, she knew men very well. "Mister, don't be angry." Dong Zhizi turned her head and blew lightly on Tung Qingshan's neck. "Who?" Dong Zhizi, who was originally carried on Tung Qingshan's back, was put down by Tung Qingshan and placed in front of him. Dong Zhizi first widened her eyes in shock, then looked at Tung Qingshan in astonishment. Her face revealed a flirtatious pink, as though she was ready to be plucked by him. However, she thought to herself, these stinky men are all the same in front of women. So what if they're Golden Dan innate martial saints? Didn't they still prostrate themselves before me? However, to be able to make love with this Golden Dan innate martial saint in the sky, Dong Zhizi was somewhat excited. It had to be said, this Dong Zhizi was indeed very charming. Just as she closed her eyes and waited for Tung Qingshan to bully her, Tung Qingshan stretched out his left hand and pressed lightly on the back of Dong Zhizi's neck. Dong Zhizi felt a wave of dizziness and immediately fainted. How noisy! Tung Qingshan grabbed onto Dong Zhizi's shoulder with his left hand, stabilizing her body as she flew through the air. Seducing a woman? Tung Qingshan had been trained as an assassin in his previous life. If he couldn't resist a woman's seduction, then Tung Qingshan would have died long ago in his previous life. It looks like there's only the most direct way to enter Wuhan City. Tung Qingshan couldn't think of any other way. The whole gale eagle hovered a few hundred zhang above Wuhan City. Tung Qingshan looked down and observed carefully. The Rising Sun restaurant is the most luxurious restaurant. It should be located in the center of Wuhan City, the most flourishing area. With Tung Qingshan's eyesight, he could clearly see the streets and shops below, even though he was a few hundred zhang high up in the sky. There were only a few main roads in Wuhan City, and they were very conspicuous from a high altitude. As for the Rising Sun restaurant, the architecture of the Rising Sun restaurant was very unique. Very soon, Tung Qingshan discovered the location of the Rising Sun restaurant. Phew! Carrying the unconscious Dong Zhizi, Tung Qingshan leaped down from the eagle's back. High up in the sky, Tung Qingshan rapidly descended like a black shadow. Tung Qingshan fell horizontally. At the same time, a red wing-like membrane extended from his waist. With this, the resistance of the wind immediately increased, causing Tung Qingshan's falling speed to decrease significantly. However, even with the decrease in speed, his falling speed was still astonishing. Swish! Like a meteorite, under Tung Qingshan's subtle control, Tung Qingshan directly fell into the spacious courtyard of the luxurious mansion behind the Rising Sun restaurant. Bang! A shocking hole appeared in the front courtyard. Tung Qingshan's entire body, as well as Dong Zhizi's body, were enveloped by the red innate true origin. The strong impact of the fall caused many experts that the Rising Sun Trading Company had arranged to appear. Almost 100 people flew out. Who's there? Phew! Under the watchful eyes of almost 100 people, Tung Qingshan, whose entire body was enveloped in flames, leaped out of the huge hole. He then placed Dong Zhizi, who was on his back, to the side and said, "Fortunately, I acted as your cushion and enveloped you with a large amount of innate true origin. Otherwise, you would have died from the impact while you were unconscious." Who are you? Almost 100 people surrounded Tung Qingshan, but they were all slightly hesitant. Forming a protective shield on the surface of one's body with true origin was the sign of an innate martial saint. Get the chief supervisor of Wuhan City here. As Tung Qingshan spoke, he took out a token from his bosom. It was the token of the Rising Sun Trading Company's deacon. Many people took a closer look. "Greetings, Lord Deacon." They all bowed respectfully. The manager of the Rising Sun restaurant ran over as well. "Deacon Tung." The manager hastily bowed respectfully. "The trading company just informed us that Deacon Tung would come to Wuhan City. I didn't expect that Deacon Tung would arrive so soon." As he spoke, he cast a glance at Dong Zhizi, who was lying on the ground. He glared fiercely at Dong Zhizi's enchanting body. He only knew that Deacon Tung would capture someone. As for who he would capture, he didn't know. At this moment, Dong Zhizi was thrown on the ground with a face covered in dust. The manager really didn't recognize her. Get your chief supervisor here. Tell him that the mission is completed. Tung Shan ordered. Yes, yes. The manager hastily made arrangements. In a quiet house in Wuhan City, this was the temporary residence of the Jiang clan. The vice supervisor of the Hall of Assassins in Wuhan City had arrived. Vice supervisor, please take a seat. The slightly plump elder said with a smile. The third young master, who had already succeeded as the patriarch of the Jiang clan, hastily asked, Vice supervisor, did the most powerful martial saint agree to accept the mission? Huh. The vice supervisor chuckled and cupped his hands. Congratulations, Patriarch Jiang. The most powerful martial saint has already captured Dong Zhizi and brought her to Wuhan City. What? In the hall, the third young master, the slightly plump elder, and the tall and skinny elder were all astonished. Yesterday afternoon, just now, the three of them couldn't believe it. From here to Shuangshan City was almost 1,000 li away. So fast. Haha. How powerful is the most powerful martial saint? The vice supervisor laughed and said, Now, please prepare the gold and stone inscriptions and send them to the back residence of the Rising Sun restaurant. All right. The third young master stood up abruptly, his eyes glowing. Dong Zhizi, that bitch. I will make her beg for death. The third young master's eyes flickered with an ominous glint. His heart was filled with endless hatred and ruthlessness. He would never forget those nightmarish days. The most powerful martial saint is indeed powerful. The plump elder praised. Yesterday afternoon, they had just issued the mission. This morning, Tung Shan rode the whole Gale Eagle and departed for Shuangshan City. He arrived at noon and had lunch before capturing Dong Zhizi. The distance between Shuangshan City and Wuhan City was only 1,000 li. With the speed of the whole Gale Eagle, it would take less than 2 hours to arrive. Only one day had passed, and Dong Zhizi had already been captured. She had even been sent to Wuhan City. Such speed was indeed shocking. In the quiet living room of the back residence of the Rising Sun restaurant, Dong Zhizi's body was lying powerlessly on a chair with her eyes closed. It was obvious that she was still unconscious. Other than Dong Zhizi, Tung Shan and a white-haired elder were also in the living room. Head supervisor, when will the stone inscription arrive? Tung Shan asked with a frown. Mr. Tung. The elder chuckled and said, The mission was just issued yesterday, and Mr. has already sent her here today. I'm afraid that the Jiang clan is still thinking whether the most powerful martial saint will accept the mission or not. They probably never imagined that the most powerful martial saint would be sent here on the second day. Therefore, I guess the Jiang clan was caught unprepared. The elder said with a smile. This elder was the head supervisor of the Rising Sun Trading Company in Wuhan City. He had a high status, and many people had to listen to his orders. However, in front of Tung Shan, he didn't dare to be arrogant. He knew very well how terrifying the strength of the person before him was. But don't worry, mister. They are currently in the city and will send the stone inscriptions here very soon. The elder said. Tung Shan nodded. Tung Shan suddenly turned to look at Dong Zhizi and sneered. Dong Zhizi, stop pretending to be unconscious. Since you are awake, open your eyes. Tung Shan's hearing was amazing. Based on the breathing and heartbeat of others, Tung Shan could determine whether the other party was awake or not. Dong Zhizi opened her eyes and glared at Tung Shan, her eyes blazing with anger. Dong Zhizi, Mr. has accepted a mission from the Hall of Assassins. You don't have to stare at him like that. The head supervisor said coldly. Hall of Assassins? Dong Zhizi was shocked. Someone had hired the Hall of Assassins to capture her. Thinking of the consequences, Dong Zhizi was so anxious that her mind was in a mess. She glared at Tung Shan like an enraged lion. You better let me go. You enter my Dong clan openly. Many people have seen your appearance. If you don't let me go, my Dong clan will definitely take revenge on you. Definitely. Openly? The head supervisor looked at Tung Shan in shock. Oh, revenge? Tung Shan smiled at Dong Zhizi. Dong Zhizi gritted her teeth. Don't act like you don't care. Listen carefully. If anything happens to me, my Dong clan will definitely not let you off. Even if I can't kill you, my Dong clan will take revenge on your family and friends. We definitely will. Dong Zhizi, who had sunk into madness, started to threaten Tung Shan. Take revenge on my family and friends? Tung Shan smiled as he looked at the hysterical woman. Dong Zhizi, stop dreaming. Your tiny Dong clan wants to take revenge on Mr. The head supervisor sneered. If a woman like you dies, so be it. People die every day in the struggle for hegemony. If you die, the Dong clan won't fight with Mr. for you. Furthermore, they don't have the qualifications to fight. Shut up, Dong Zhizi said sternly. You're just a supervisor. How dare you interrupt me? Who do you think you are? Oomph. The head supervisor's face darkened. No matter how good-tempered the head supervisor was, he was still angry. Her dantian was destroyed, she was captured, and she knew that the Hall of Assassins was behind this. Dong Zhizi knew that she was done for after a series of setbacks. She was like a drowning person who would grab at anything before dying. Dong Zhizi was the same. Mr. Head Supervisor, the manager of the Rising Sun restaurant ran in and said with a smile, the Jiang clan has arrived. Oh, Tung Shan's eyes revealed a hint of joy. What, the Jiang clan? Dong Zhizi, who had gone mad, was stunned. Her face instantly turned pale, and her body trembled uncontrollably. Did the Jiang clan ask the Hall of Assassins to capture me? Chapter 372. Guards! The head supervisor shouted loudly. Two men immediately ran in from outside the hall. The head supervisor pointed at Dong Zhizi and ordered, carry this woman to the front hall. Yes, my lord. The two men responded respectfully and went to carry Dong Zhizi. At this moment, Dong Zhizi finally came to her senses. She hastily looked at the head supervisor and said anxiously, Supervisor, I beg the Hall of Assassins. Please don't hand me over to the Jiang clan. Kill me, kill me. Dong Zhizi's face turned pale. She clenched her teeth and slammed her head against the wall. Phew! One of the two subordinates, a burly man, suddenly grabbed Dong Zhizi's body, causing her to tumble to the ground. In front of so many experts, Dong Zhizi, who was already a cripple, couldn't even commit suicide if she wanted to. Kill you? Humph. The head supervisor waved his hand. The two men had already lifted Dong Zhizi. Dong Zhizi struggled frantically in fear. No, no. She then looked at Tung Shan with pleading eyes. I beg you, kill me. Kill me. If I fall into the hands of the Jiang clan, they will torture me to death. I beg you, kill me. Dong Zhizi was easily carried away by the two strong men amidst her mournful screams. Dong Zhizi, whose arms had been amputated, couldn't even commit suicide. This bitch even threatened Mr. just now. Oomph, what a joke. The head supervisor sneered and looked at Tung Shan with a smile. Mr. Tung, this person has been sent over. The stone inscription will arrive soon. Please wait patiently. Tung Shan nodded. In just a short while, Tung Shan heard Dong Zhizi's mournful screams from afar, as well as a hearty laughter filled with hatred. Ha ha, bitch, you deserve this day? The voice caused the head supervisor to laugh. Mr. Tung, the Jiang clan has long hated Dong Zhizi to the core. Even the previous patriarch of a Jiang clan was captured and tortured to death. When Tung Shan heard this, he nodded his head and sighed in his heart. Just 2 hours ago, Dong Zhizi was still the patriarch of the Dong clan and a martial saint of the innate realm. He even wantonly tortured and toyed with Tai Lao-san. When facing Tung Shan, he could still say, from today onwards, you are my 10th male concubine. But in the blink of an eye, she had fallen into the hands of the Jiang family. Mr. Tung. Laughter came from outside the hall. The manager of the Rising Sun restaurant was smiling as he walked in with a strong man dressed in a green leather coat. This strong man was carrying a bar-shaped object wrapped in a gray cloth on his shoulder. Tung Shan's gaze fell on that strip-shaped object. He stood up with a whoosh, his eyes shining. It's the same size as the blunt vanadium stone slab. I reckon it's that stone inscription. When the chief steward saw this, he could not help but stand up with a smile. Mr. Tongue, this is one of the 36 stone inscriptions left behind by the godly axe deity, you the Great. The manager extended his hand and took the stone inscription from the strong man. At the same time, he lifted the gray cloth on the surface of the stone inscription. When the gray cloth was removed, a stone inscription that looked like a piece of jade was revealed. The stone inscription glowed faintly with a green halo. On the left side of the stone inscription was the inscription of a figure leaping high and swinging an enormous axe. On the right side of the stone inscription was the word Tao, filled with a murderous aura. At first glance, even Ting Qing Shan could feel a powerful aura surging towards him, as if an enormous axe was cleaving towards him. It's the real deal. Tung Qing Shan's eyes shone brightly as he examined the stone inscription. He exclaimed, as expected of a stone inscription personally carved by the godly axe deity. The aura is obviously different from the blunt vanadium stone slab. The chief steward also stared at the stone inscription and revealed an expression of amazement. The godly axe deity, you the Great, is indeed the godly person who created the cultivation method and spread it throughout the world. An ordinary stone has become so mystical after being carved by him. Tung Qing Shan took 2 steps forward and formed his right hand into a sharp claw, swiping at the stone inscription. Mr. Tung. The chief steward was shocked. Mr. Tung, don't. The manager, who was holding the stone inscription, turned pale with fright. However, he did not have the time to dodge. Clang! Tung Qing Shan clawed the edge of the stone inscription with his right hand, and the sound of metal clashing resounded. Immediately, powder rolled down, and 2 deep grooves appeared. When the chief steward saw that Tung Qing Shan had only scratched the edge of the stone inscription, and the diagram and the word Tao were not damaged, he heaved a sigh of relief. He couldn't help but walk over and say with a bitter smile, Mr. Tung, what are you doing? This is a stone inscription left behind by the godly axe deity. If a piece is damaged, there will be one less. Chief steward, look, look. The manager stared at the stone inscription in astonishment. The head steward turned his head, and when he saw it, he was also shocked. The grooves that had been scratched by Tung Qing Shan were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths, the stone inscription became undamaged again, as if it had never been damaged. This is too magical, the chief steward exclaimed. A smile appeared on Tung Qing Shan's face. When he entered the Heavenly Flood Palace in the Great Yin Mountain, the wall of the Heavenly Flood Palace had been like this. Even a Golden Dan innate expert would be able to blast a hole in the wall. It would also recover quickly. This stone inscription also contained the power of Emperor Yu's world. Because of this, ordinary stones became jade-like. After testing it, it was as expected. Manager, wrap up this stone inscription. Tung Qing Shan instructed with a smile. I won't stay any longer. I'll be leaving first. Mister, it won't be too late to leave tomorrow. The manager and the chief steward urged him to stay. However, Tung Qing Shan just smiled and shook his head. Mister, besides this stone inscription, there are also 10,000 taels of gold. The manager hastily said. Tung Qing Shan shook his head and said, no need. 10,000 taels of gold weighed 1,000 jin. The whole Gale Eagle would fly much slower if it was carried. Moreover, Tung Qing Shan didn't care about money anymore. Tung Qing Shan didn't care about money. After all, when he reached the emptiness realm, Tung Qing Shan would return to the land of the 9 prefectures. Would he bring chests of gold back to the land of the 9 prefectures? Even 1,000,000 taels of gold was nothing in the eyes of the sects in the land of the 9 prefectures. This is what we should do, the head steward hastily said. The Rising Sun Trading Company will arrange for someone to send this 10,000 taels of gold to the foot of the godly axe mountain. Tung Qing Shan didn't say anything else. He took the wrapped stone inscription and walked out. Screech! Outside Wan City, Tung Qing Shan leaped onto the back of the whole Gale Eagle. With an excited cry, The whole gale eagle flapped its wings and quickly disappeared into the southwest horizon. In the main hall of the Dong clan's mansion in Shuangshan City, dozens of people gathered in the main hall. These people were the direct descendants and elites of the Dong clan. The person sitting on the main seat was a pale, silver-haired elder dressed in a black fur coat. On the chairs on both sides of the hall sat the higher-ups of the Dong clan. Everyone knew that, just over 2 hours ago, the patriarch of the Dong clan, Dong Zhizi, was forcefully broken into the Dong clan and taken away. The hall was filled with murmurs of discussion. Some people were extremely furious, but there were also some who occasionally revealed a hint of joy. If Dong Zhizi died, many people would be able to take over the position. At this moment, a lean man quickly entered the hall. "Have you found out who that person is?" The silver-haired elder asked coldly. Reporting to Grand Elder, according to the portrait, the person who broke into our Dong clan is the expert, Tung Qingshan, who appeared in Southern Mountain City's drifting cloud mansion not long ago. Rumor has it that this Tung Qingshan's strength is extremely terrifying. Even the Thunderblade Martial Saint, Fu Dao, is more powerful than him and even respectfully calls him Mister. The Rising Sun Trading Company's Grand Elder is also very friendly to him. According to the information, this Tung Qingshan should be a golden core innate martial saint. Moreover, his strength is probably close to the Rising Sun Martial Saint, the lean man reported respectfully. Many people in the hall sucked in a cold breath. The silver-haired elder narrowed his eyes. Previously, he was sent flying by a kick from Tung Qingshan. The silver-haired elder knew very well that without the strength of a golden core innate martial saint, it would be impossible for him to do so. Immediately, a middle-aged man stood up and said angrily, "This Tung Qingshan broke into the Dong clan and captured the patriarch of the Dong clan. He's too arrogant. It's no different than slapping the face of the Dong clan. We must avenge this great humiliation." "Avenge? Who's going to avenge?" A skinny man with a pale face sneered. "You, sit down," the silver-haired elder scolded. The middle-aged man sat down resentfully and helplessly. In the hall, the higher-ups of the Dong clan all had their own thoughts. Even if someone said that they would avenge, it was just for show. Avenge? In the Eastern Flower region, the Dong clan was considered to have some strength. However, to avenge a golden core innate martial saint, if word of this spread, it would be a huge joke. Zhizi was captured and his Dantian was destroyed. Even if he survives, he is not qualified to be the patriarch. The silver-haired elder looked at the group of people below and said, "From today onwards, Zhiyun, you will be the new patriarch of the Dong clan." When these words were spoken, the expressions of many people who were originally happy changed. They never expected that this grand elder would directly choose someone to be the patriarch. He didn't even discuss it. The refined and handsome middle-aged man stood up and said respectfully, "Yes, Grand Elder." The silver-haired elder nodded and swept his cold gaze across the people below. No one dared to disobey his orders. "Great-grandfather, my mother was captured. Are we not going to do anything about it?" A young girl who bore a striking resemblance to Dong Zhizi, but appeared to be more beautiful and lively, stood up and said angrily, "Impudent." The silver-haired elder's face darkened. "Dong Shi, how can you speak to the Grand Elder like that?" Many people immediately scolded Dong Shi. However, Dong Shi clenched her teeth and turned to walk out of the hall. The Eastern Flower region's Wuan City was very far from the Nanshan City of the Nanshan region. When Tung Qingshan arrived at the Crescent Moon Lake of the Godly Axe Mountain on the Whole Gale Eagle, it was already pitch black. The doors of the houses were tightly shut, and there was a faint light shining through. It was obvious that they hadn't slept yet. Whoosh, whoosh. The cold wind whistled as the Whole Gale Eagle swooped down. Screech. The Whole Gale Eagle immediately screeched. Immediately, the doors of the 2 stone houses opened. Li Jun and Little Ping were in one house, while Tung Shou and Old Wang were in the other. "Big Brother Tung," Li Jun shouted in surprise. "Teacher," Ting Shou also shouted. Tung Ching Shan held the stone inscription and leaped down from the eagle's back. The whole gale eagle flapped its wings proudly, as if it was taking credit. Yes, little gray is good. Li Jun patted the whole gale eagle's back and looked at Tung Ching Shan. Big brother Tung, you haven't eaten dinner yet, right? I'll go heat it up. With this, Li Jun ran into the house, and little Ping ran over to help. Tung Ching Shan felt warmth in his heart when he returned at night, with someone helping to heat up the meal. After dinner, the impatient Tung Ching Shan walked out of the house with the splitting mountain axe in one hand and the stone inscription in the other. He started cultivating overnight. The combination of the splitting mountain axe and the stone inscription. According to Emperor Yu, even an ordinary innate expert will be able to step into the emptiness realm within a few dozen years. As for me, I've already stepped into the doorstep. Tung Ching Shan was slightly excited. With the help of this stone inscription, he would definitely improve greatly. He might even be able to step into the emptiness realm within a year or two. Chapter 373. The night was as dark as ink, and a strong wind howled. The stone inscription that glowed with an azure-green glow was inserted into the snow. At this moment, the splitting mountain axe in Tung Ching Shan's hand also glowed with a faint glow. Rays of azure-green light that were hard to discern with the naked eye emanated from the splitting mountain axe and merged with the stone inscription. As for Tung Ching Shan, he stood there with his eyes closed, motionless. The ninth move of the splitting mountain axe. Emperor Yu's voice, which caused the heavens and the earth to tremble, reverberated in everyone's ears. A tall figure suddenly leaped up high into the clouds. He held the splitting mountain axe with both hands and slashed downwards. Rumble, under this furious slash, a huge crack appeared on the towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. Countless huge rocks tumbled down, creating a loud rumble. A tall mountain was split into two by the axe. Immediately, this scene disappeared, and the detailed scenes of using the ninth move appeared in Tung Ching Shan's mind. Tung Ching Shan was completely immersed in the artistic conception that Emperor Yu had created. Tung Ching Shan looked at the scene in front of his eyes. Tung Ching Shan was completely immersed in the conception that Emperor Yu had created. After a long time, Tung Ching Shan opened his eyes. Emperor Yu is really powerful. It's just the ninth move, but he actually divided it into dozens of simplified moves. Tung Ching Shan was amazed. The 36 splitting mountain forms was Emperor Yu's strongest offensive move. It was extremely difficult to comprehend. If one only saw Emperor Yu perform the ninth move, they wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Therefore, Emperor Yu divided the ninth move and described it in detail with various moves, trying to make it as simple as possible. Emperor Yu's technique is powerful. However, he said that even an ordinary innate expert could reach the emptiness realm within a few decades. It was a lie. If it was an ordinary innate expert, even if he had the splitting mountain axe and the 36 inscriptions, he would only be able to see Emperor Yu's detailed description of each move. He could only see Emperor Yu's detailed description of each move. The Tao of Heaven could not be described with words. Even though Emperor Yu's description of the Tao of Heaven was very simple, it was only relative. It is still very difficult for an ordinary innate expert to comprehend it. Tung Ching Shan only understood after he immersed himself in the technique. The splitting mountain axe, combined with the stone carvings, reduced the difficulty of cultivation by 90%. However, it wasn't something that an ordinary inborn expert could comprehend. However, Tung Ching Shan was different. His realm was already very high. Even without the stone carvings, it would only take him a few more years. With this stone inscription, Emperor Yu purposely divided one move into 10 moves. Tung Ching Shan comprehended it very quickly. The ninth form contains the metal elemental Tao and the earth elemental Tao. If I spend some time, I might be able to create the fifth form of my 5 elemental spear art. Currently, Tung Ching Shan only had 4 moves in his spear art. The first was Transmutation Unity Law, the second was Pursuing Shadow, the third was toxic dragon drill, and the fourth was vermilion tiger roar. All that was left was the spear art derived from the cleaving fist. The cleaving fist belonged to the metal element and was the head of the 5 elements. It was shaped like an axe and was formed by the rising and falling of chi. When the cleaving fist struck out, it was like an axe cleaving out with great power. The cleaving fist was the most difficult move in the 5 elements boxing of Xing martial arts. The metal element was sharp and unstoppable. It was also the most difficult to comprehend. In Tang Qingshan's previous life, the grandmasters of the 5 elements boxing of Xing studied the bursting fist the most. The bursting fist was like an arrow, and the punches were like drawing a bow and shooting an arrow. The punches were continuous and continuous. The drilling fist was the fastest. The cannon fist was the most powerful. The horizontal fist was the foundation of the 5 elements. The cleaving fist was the head of the 5 elements and was the most powerful. Among the 5 elements boxing, the bursting fist was undoubtedly the most balanced. Regardless of attack, defense, speed, etc., it was very balanced. Therefore, the grandmasters who studied this move painstakingly were the most. The cleaving fist and this axe art have something in common. As Tang Qingshan studied this axe art, he also began to ponder the 5th move of the 5-element spear art. Ever since he obtained the 9th stone inscription, Tang Qingshan studied this axe art almost every day. However, he didn't know. Within a few days, most of the clans in Duanmu continent knew that he broke into the Dong clan and captured Dongzhi. After all, this matter was too shocking. Openly breaking into a large clan and capturing the patriarch of the innate realm. This strength was too frightening. At that time, Tang Qingshan didn't hide himself. Of course, his appearance was seen by others. It was easy to confirm that Tang Qingshan was the one who did it. In Duanmu continent, hundreds of clans fought for hegemony. There were countless hanger-ons and vagabonds. If there was a disagreement, they would draw their swords against each other, and blood would be spilled. In Duanmu continent, people had absolute admiration for the strong. In people's eyes, Tang Qingshan's domineering behavior was the behavior of a true expert. He didn't hide himself. Only those who had absolute confidence in their own strength dared to do so. A true expert who didn't care about thousands of soldiers and horses. Admiration, admiration. Of course, that was only for ordinary hanger-ons and vagabonds. In the eyes of some of the great clans, Tang Qingshan was in high demand. He was the support of the clan's prosperity. If such a super expert could join their clan, the clan would definitely become stronger. On the afternoon of the 5th day, after Tang Qingshan obtained the stone inscription, by the Crescent Moon Lake, there were many warhouse and hunchback beasts. A middle-aged man, dressed gracefully, was talking to Li Jun with a young man. Patriarch Morong, Big Brother Tung, will be here soon. You could talk to Big Brother Tung then. I can't make the decision. Li Jun shook her head. At this moment, a figure dressed in an azure leather coat walked over from afar. The graceful and noble middle-aged man walked over with the young man. With a smile, he cupped his hands and said, "I am Morong Zheng. Greetings, Mr. Tung." Patriarch Morong. Tang Qingshan glanced at him with a smile and said, "I've seen you before." "Yes, we met at the Drifting Cloud Mansion," Patriarch Morong said with a smile. At the same time, he pointed to the young man beside him and said, "This is my son, Morong Lufeng. Fenger, greet Mr. Tung." The young man appeared somewhat reserved. As he looked at Tang Qingshan, there was a hint of passion in his eyes. He hastily bowed respectfully and said, "Morong Lufeng greets Mr. Tung." Tang Qingshan looked at him and asked with a smile, "Patriarch Morong, which young master is Morong Lufeng in your family?" "He is the 3rd son." Patriarch Morong hastily answered. "Oh." Tang Qingshan nodded. Patriarch Morong was surprised and happy as he said, "Mr. Tung, how do you know that I have more than one son? Could it be that Mr. knows my other sons?" In Patriarch Morong's opinion, this was something to be proud of. Moreover, if Tang Qingshan had an old acquaintance, it would be easier to build a relationship with him. When I first arrived at Nanshan City, Tung Ching Shan said as he walked, I noticed that someone was leading a troop of cavalrymen on the streets, almost trampling the passers-by to death. I stopped them at that time. According to the passers-by, the leader of that troop was the second young master of the Morong clan. Hearing this, Patriarch Morong couldn't help but reveal an awkward expression. Patriarch Morong originally thought that Tung Ching Shan was just praising him, but he actually talked about this matter. That unfilial son of mine actually dared to be so impudent. Patriarch Morong revealed a hint of anger as he said, When I return, I will definitely discipline him. Tung Ching Shan smiled and walked to the front of the house. Big brother Tung, lunch is ready. Yes. Tung Ching Shan looked at Patriarch Morong and asked, May I know why Patriarch Morong has come to my place? Patriarch Morong said with a smile, Lu Feng has been fond of spear arts since he was young. Now, he has made some achievements in spear arts. However, it is very difficult to become the disciple of a true spear master. There are too few spear masters. I heard that Mr. Tung is proficient in spear arts. Therefore, I shamelessly brought Feng over to ask Mr. Tung to take this child as your disciple. Teacher, please take me as your disciple. Morong Lu Feng blushed slightly as he bowed and said, My disciple must fulfill 3 requirements. The first requirement is that the disciple's strength must at least reach the emptiness Dan of the innate realm. Tung Ching Shan glanced at them with a faint smile and said, Patriarch Morong, you guys should leave first. With this, Tung Ching Shan turned and walked into the house. Mr. Tung. Patriarch Morong shouted, but Tung Ching Shan ignored him. Fulfill 3 requirements. And the first requirement is to reach the emptiness Dan of the innate realm. When Patriarch Morong heard this, he couldn't help but feel angry. He thought to himself, This Mr. Tung is really arrogant. How many martial saints are there in the entire Duanmu continent? I really want to see if he will accept disciples in the future. Patriarch Morong was angry, but he didn't dare to say it. Mr. Tung, then we will take our leave. The Morong clan's patriarch grabbed the Morong clan's 3rd young master, whose face was flushed red, and left swiftly with a group of guards under him. In the house, Li Jun watched the group of people leave. Big brother Tung, these 3 requirements of yours seem very harsh. Li Jun smiled. Little Jun, I feel that these great clans might have people come to take me as their teacher. When that time comes, you could just tell them that the first requirement is to at least reach the emptiness Dan of the innate realm. Tung Ching Shan said. Li Jun hastily said, What if an innate expert really comes? Really? Tung Ching Shan smiled faintly and said, Isn't there a 2nd and 3rd requirement? Plus, if we really like each other, it wouldn't be bad to take an innate expert as my disciple. Little Ping and Old Wang, who were at the side, laughed. Tung Shou blinked his eyes as if he didn't understand. Tung Ching Shan's prediction was correct. The Morong clan wasn't the only clan that wanted to rope in Tung Ching Shan by taking him as his teacher. The Wang clan and the Li clan had both used this method. Even some clans that were far away had either invited Tung Ching Shan to be a consecrator or a teacher. Unfortunately, they were all frightened by Tung Ching Shan's requirements. You want to be my disciple? The first requirement is to reach the innate realm. Not to mention that Tung Ching Shan still had the 2nd and 3rd requirements. You want to know the 2nd and 3rd requirements? I'll tell you when you reach the innate realm. The few great clans hit a wall. Immediately, the great clans knew that this Mr. Tung was difficult to deal with. Simultaneously, news of Tung Ching Shan's requirements for taking in disciples also spread, causing many people to exclaim in surprise. A super powerful expert was indeed a super powerful expert. Even the requirements for taking in disciples were so high. When a person's status was extremely high, even if his actions were overbearing, there would still be people who admired him. On the morning of the 28th day after Tung Ching Shan obtained the stone inscription, in the underground abode of the godly Axe Mountain, Tung Ching Shan sat cross-legged and meditated for an entire night. Then, he got up and started practicing his fist art. Every morning, Li Jun and the others would wake up to the whistling sound of Tung Qingshan's fist art. They all knew that when Tung Qingshan practiced his fist art, the sky just so happened to be bright. Li Jun stretched her body, opened the door curtain, and walked out. Little Ping, who was beside her, also walked out. Li Jun and Little Ping both widened their eyes. Uncle, Little Ping was dumbfounded. At this moment, Tung Qingshan, who was practicing the earth element fist, seemed to be wearing an earthy yellow battle armor. Even his head was completely covered, and only his eyes were faintly covered with a transparent barrier of light. With such an image, Tung Qingshan was like a god that had descended from the heavens. In the past, Tung Qingshan's body was covered with flashing earthy yellow rays of light. But now, it had formed a sealed battle armor. Big Brother Tung. Has he reached the later stage of the Supreme Force? Li Jun was pleasantly surprised. Chapter 374. Today was the third chapter. While practicing, Tung Qingshan could clearly feel the amazing changes that were happening to his body. Back in the Great Prairie, Tung Qingshan had already stepped into the middle stage of the Supreme Force. However, it took Tung Qingshan more than a year to advance from the middle stage to the late stage of the Supreme Force. It was only today that he made the breakthrough. With this breakthrough, Tung Qingshan could feel the amazing changes. The powerful Supreme Force was like iron wires, but also like tough silk. It ran through every part of Tung Qingshan's body and hid in every cell. Whether it was his muscles, tendons, bones, fascia, or internal organs, they were all filled with this magical power. Moreover, this power was transforming. It was becoming stronger and tougher. Clang, clang. Tung Qingshan could faintly hear the wonderful changes that were happening inside his body after the Supreme Force and the Spirit combined. This change made the Supreme Force even more mysterious. At the same time, it also caused the cells in Tung Qingshan's body to undergo earth-shaking changes. Originally, Tung Qingshan's 5 viscera and 6 bowels were much weaker than his muscles, tendons, and bones. However, at this moment, the wisps of lightning-like and silk-like Supreme Force were vibrating and transforming in his internal organs. These internal organs were also transforming rapidly, becoming tougher and stronger. Just like Tung Qingshan's heart, even without the protection of the Supreme Force, an ordinary person couldn't pierce it with a knife. From the inside to the outside, there was no weakness. This was the perfect body that could only be obtained by cultivating the internal martial arts to the peak. The Spirit and the Supreme Force actually complement each other. My Supreme Force has made a breakthrough, and my Spirit has also transformed. Tung Qingshan could clearly feel this change. For so long, Tung Qingshan couldn't use the Spirit to control the air so that it wouldn't become a resistance. However, when he reached the late stage of the Supreme Force, Tung Qingshan did it. The Spirit in the Mud Pill Palace continued to integrate with the Supreme Force. When the Supreme Force was saturated, the Spirit would integrate and return to the Mud Pill Palace. However, after entering the peak of the Supreme Force and coming out, the Spirit itself had changed. Only when this Spirit is strong can I reach the late stage of the Supreme Force. When the Spirit reaches the late stage of the Supreme Force, the Spirit can control the air and eliminate air resistance. These two things complement each other. Tung Qingshan was secretly amazed. No wonder. The Buddhist sect and the Taoist sect are different. Among them, the Buddhist sect attaches more importance to divinity. It stands to reason that after reaching the Arhat middle stage, the strength of divinity should be similar to that of a Taoist golden core innate expert. Even if this spirit is required, the Qingshan, the spirit of the Taoist sect, can control the air resistance. Taoists can only control air resistance after reaching the connate golden core. It's the same for my branch of internal martial arts. Only after reaching the late stage of the Supreme Force can one eliminate air resistance. Tung Qingshan's heart was filled with joy. When one reached the pinnacle of the internal martial arts supreme force, the inside and outside of one's body became one, perfect and complete. The supreme force was extremely strong. Sometimes it would lurk inside the body, and sometimes it would condense on the surface of the body. It could be said that physically, Tang Shan had reached his limit. Any further improvement would be an improvement in one's comprehension of Tao. When a golden core innate expert or a late Arhat expert reaches their limit, their body's explosive power is about 800,000 genes. As for Tang Shan, the combination of his body and the supreme force had reached the limit. His explosive power was around 1,600,000 gene. 2 times. My body has reached its limit. Even an emptiness realm expert's body is not as strong as mine. Tang Shan knew this very well. I can't improve my body any further. What I have to do now is to comprehend the Tao. The current Tang Shan could cause the air to explode with a single deep breath. Perfection both inside and outside was the limit of the body. Who? Tang Shan withdrew his power and exhaled a breath of air. The breath of air shot a hole in the mountain wall. Big Brother Tang, you broke through? Li Jun walked over with a happy expression. Teacher. Tang Shan's eyes were also filled with joy. After Tang Shan's teachings, Tang Shou knew that, after reaching the Grandmaster realm, internal martial arts could be divided into 3 levels: the first, middle, and last. In the first level, the entire body could be covered with light. In the second level, the supreme force could be condensed into rings. I broke through. Tang Shan nodded with a smile. Big Brother Tang, this is great news. Today, I will cook more dishes today. Li Jun was also happy for Tang Shan. Little Ping, who was at the side, waved her arms and said, Sister Jun, let me help. Congratulations, boss. Old Wang said with a smile. Big Brother Tang, Li Jun suddenly said softly. Tang Shan looked at her. Big Brother Tang, didn't you say that you would subdue the 6-legged blade-like chi when you reach the later stage of the Supreme Force? Li Jun said, as she pointed to a cave at the side. When Tang Shan heard this, his eyes brightened. He turned his head and looked. From where Tang Shan was, he could still see the 6-legged blade-like chi sleeping in the cave. The 6-legged blade-like chi could sleep very well. Ever since Tang Shan obtained the stone inscription, the 6-legged blade-like chi had only woken up twice. The 6-legged blade-like chi is very powerful. It can fly in the sky and escape underground. Its body's defense is also very strong. Tang Shan praised inwardly. Moreover, the blade-like art performed by the 6 blade-like legs is very exquisite. It is the most suitable sparring partner for me. In the future, it will be very useful if I bring it to the land of the 9 prefectures. After coming into contact with a heavenly god palace, Tang Shan knew, in the land of the 9 prefectures, the 8 supreme sects seemed to be superior, but in reality, there were turbulent undercurrents. For example, the ambitious heavenly god palace. Of course, Tang Shan was not willing to be ordinary. Qinghu Island. Your Qinghu Island and my Gue Yuan sect are in the same prefecture. How can a land of 1 prefecture contain 2 tigers? Tang Shan understood this very well. In the future, my branch of internal martial art will also flourish. How can the territory of Jiangning County be enough? Qinghu Island has controlled Yangzhou for a long time. It's time to move. How could Tang Shan let go of Qing's death? How could he just let go of Qing's death? However, without sufficient strength, everything was just empty talk. Little Jun, all of you go outside. Little Jun, you talk to it after I finish fighting with it. Tang Shan said. Li Jun and the others nodded. Screech, screech. Li Jun even called out to Blue Wan, who was sleeping in the nest, to go out with them. As for the whole Gale Eagle, it was already outside. Soon, Li Jun, the others, and Blue Wan left. Tang Shan picked up the reincarnation spear, which was leaning against the wall, and walked towards the nest of the 6-legged blade-like chi. Boom, boom, boom. Tung Shan purposely stomped on the ground with every step he took, causing the ground to shake and the stone surface to crack. It was as if a giant was striding forward. The six-legged blade-like Chi, which was sleeping, suddenly opened its eyes on its triangular head. Phew! At the same time, it straightened its body and lay on its 6 legs, ready to pounce at any time. It opened its mouth and emitted a deep and dissatisfied roar. The deep roar carried a unique, fishy smell. Six-legged blade-like Chi, how about we fight? Tung Shan raised his reincarnation spear and pointed it at the six-legged blade-like Chi. The six-legged blade-like Chi immediately roared angrily. It was obvious that in the six-legged blade-like Chi's opinion, a fight between the two was meaningless. Are you afraid? Tung Shan revealed a disdainful expression. As expected, the arrogant six-legged blade-like Chi was angered by Tung Shan's attitude. It darted to the side at lightning speed, and simultaneously, its 2 blade-like front legs easily pushed open a path on the mountain wall, as if they were pushing open a bush. Its huge body darted out at lightning speed. Tung Shan and the six-legged blade-like Chi had fought several times. If they were in a narrow space, Tung Shan would definitely be at an advantage. Therefore, the six-legged blade-like Chi had learned its lesson. You, a human, want to fight with me? Fine, let's go outside. It was spacious outside, so the six-legged blade-like Chi would be an advantage. It could easily trample on Tung Shan. Tung Shan grinned. Holding the reincarnation spear in his hand, he transformed into a bolt of lightning and darted into the path. After the huge figure of the six-legged blade-like Chi darted out from the mountain wall, a human figure that was much smaller than the six-legged blade-like Chi also darted out at lightning speed. Phew! Tung Shan stood on the branch of a tree while the six-legged blade-like Chi floated in the middle of the mountain forest. On the six-legged blade-like Chi's triangular head, the tiny black pupils were faintly flickering with a cold glint. In the past, I was at a disadvantage. But this time, suddenly, Tung Shan's entire body was covered with a layer of earthy yellow color. Even his head was covered. Only his eyes were exposed. It was as if he had put on a suit of battle armor. The six-legged blade-like Chi couldn't help but be shocked. Its 2 pairs of wings flapped slightly and rose a little higher. It could also tell that the human before it seemed to have become stronger. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Chi suddenly roared deeply. Its 2 pairs of wings flapped simultaneously. In an instant, the six-legged blade-like Chi transformed into a beam of golden light. Its 2 pairs of wings, which were as thin as a cicada's wings, were extremely sharp and tough. When the six-legged blade-like Chi flew through the mountain forest, the trees that were brushed by its wings, it was as if the trees had been brushed by a sharp and huge blade. Rumble, dozens of thick and sturdy trees fell with a loud bang. However, the cross-sections of the trees were neat and smooth. Tung Shan laughed loudly and leaped into the air. He grabbed the shaft of the reincarnation spear with both of his hands and raised it high as if he was holding an axe. At the instant when he was about to exchange blows with the six-legged blade-like Chi, Tung Shan suddenly swung the reincarnation spear. His left and right hands, one in front and one behind, grabbed the shaft of the spear and fiercely swung it forward. The entire shaft of the spear was covered with an earthy yellow glow. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Chi roared and swung its 2 huge, sickle-like blade-like legs towards Tung Shan. The reincarnation spear also swung over. At the instant when the 2 attacks collided, Tung Shan's left and right arms simultaneously exerted force. Bang! The powerful force radiated in all directions, and the trees collapsed. Both Tung Shan and the six-legged blade-like Chi flew backwards. A strong and strange force caused the six-legged blade-like Chi's 2 blade-like legs to bend. Simultaneously, the force was transmitted to its body, causing the six-legged blade-like Chi to crash into over 10 thick and sturdy trees before it stopped. On its triangular head, A trace of green liquid seeped out from the corner of its mouth. The tiny black pupils of its huge eyes were filled with astonishment. Tung Qingshan flew backwards as well. With a flip of his body, he landed on the branch of a large tree. Chapter 375. Today was the fourth chapter. Tung Qingshan had been studying for a long time. He discovered that, because the shaft of the reincarnation spear did not have a sharp edge, the power of the spear shaft was not great. The power of the spear shaft was very different from that of the spear piercing with the spear shaft. Before Tung Qingshan obtained the ninth move, he had a vague idea, but he could not figure out. However, after obtaining the stone inscription and comprehending the ninth move, Tung Qingshan's confusion quickly disappeared. The spear tip was powerful. The strength was condensed into a single point, and its penetrative power was the strongest. What about the spear shaft? The spear shaft had its own advantages. Although it could not condense the strength into a single point, the flexibility of the spear shaft allowed Tung Qingshan to display the strength of hitting a bull through a mountain. The spear tip could not display the strength, but the spear shaft was very suitable. After Tung Qingshan's experiments, he finally created the fifth move, Splitting Mountain. Finally, he created the fifth move, Splitting Mountain. Like I said, the heavens are fair. The six-legged blade-like Qi has a strong defense, 2 pairs of wings, and 6 blade-like legs. As I expected, its internal organs are not very strong. However, the vibrating force was able to injure it. At this moment, Tung Qingshan was even more confident in defeating the six-legged blade-like Qi roar. With a furious roar, the six-legged blade-like Qi rapidly flew above Tung Qingshan and attacked Tung Qingshan with its 6 long legs. Under the attack of the 6 blade-like legs, the upper part of the tree that Tung Qingshan was standing on was cut into pieces. Some of the pieces were cut into pieces by the 6-legged blade-like Qi's wings. The 6 long legs attacked Tung Qingshan from all directions. It is indeed smart. It found the weakness of this move so quickly. Tung Qingshan smiled. The move Splitting Mountain had a weakness. When Tung Qingshan first created the Toxic Dragon Drill, he would lose control for a moment every time he used it. Of course, the current Toxic Dragon Drill was already flawless. However, the move Splitting Mountain required time to accumulate power. Once one was engaged in battle, there was simply no time to accumulate power to unleash this move. Secondly, the 6-legged blade-like Qi could use its 6 blade-like legs to attack from all directions. If Tung Qingshan struck with his reincarnation spear, he would only be able to strike one of the blade-like legs. The other 5 would be able to severely injure Tung Qingshan in an instant. This was his weakness. Haha, 6-legged blade-like Qi, you will definitely lose today. Tung Qingshan leaped down towards the ground. However, the 6-legged blade-like Qi swooped down and attacked Tung Qingshan with its 6 blade-like legs. Tung Qingshan turned his right hand, and the reincarnation spear turned, transforming into the transmutation unity law. Clang, clang, clang. A series of clashing sounds rang out, causing the surrounding earth to tremble, the trees to turn into powder, and a cloud of dust filled the air. Amidst the pervading dust, Tung Qingshan, who seemed to be wearing battle armor, dodged swiftly. The 6-legged blade-like Qi's 6 long legs slammed down with a loud bang, causing the earth to shake and the mountain to crack. A great amount of crushed stones flew in all directions like hidden weapons. Many crushed stones smashed onto Tung Qingshan's body. The Supreme Force battle armor on the surface of Tung Qingshan's body vibrated slightly, easily dissipating the impact. In the past, I always felt that the 6-legged blade-like Qi was very strong. Now, it seems that it is on par with my current strength. After a short fight, Tung Qingshan finally confirmed the 6-legged blade-like Qi's strength. The 6-legged blade-like Qi's explosive strength was about 1,600,000 Jin. If the 6-legged blade-like Qi relied on the vibration of its 2 pairs of wings and the force of its dive, its attack power would be even higher. The six-legged blade-like chi has wings above its body. If I execute the move splitting mountain from above, it will be blocked by the wings. If I hit the blade-like legs will be able to transmit the vibration and injure the six-legged blade-like chi. However, because of the blade-like legs, I can only injure the six-legged blade-like chi lightly. Tang Qingshan understood that in order for the move, splitting mountain, to be effective, it would have to be struck directly on the six-legged blade-like chi's body, without the obstruction of the wings. Screech, a resounding and excited cry, sounded. The blue one hovered high in the sky, its wings vibrating slightly. Dressed in a white leather coat, Li Jun stood on the back of the blue wand like a fairy, watching the battle between Tang Qingshan and the six-legged blade-like chi from afar. At this moment, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Smoke and dust filled the air, and trees collapsed one after another. Tang Qingshan stepped on a mountain wall and flew upwards. After taking a few steps, he suddenly stomped. Rumble! A huge pit appeared on the mountain wall, and Tang Qingshan darted towards the six-legged blade-like chi like an arrow that was released from a bow. The six-legged blade-like chi roared, and its six blade-like legs surrounded Tang Qingshan again. Clang! Tang Qingshan shook off one of its long legs, and the sharp spikes on its long legs streaked across Tang Qingshan's body. However, Tang Qingshan stepped on its long legs and leaped again, dashing towards the six-legged blade-like chi's abdomen. Once Tang Qingshan got close to the six-legged blade-like chi, Tang Qingshan would win. Buzz! The two pairs of wings shook, and the six-legged blade-like chi rapidly rose into the sky. At the same time, its six long legs either retracted or slashed forward at lightning speed, forming an inescapable net. After a series of attacks, Tang Qingshan was still sent flying. Tang Qingshan's right leg pierced into the mountain wall, and his entire body was fixed on the nearly straight mountain wall. He stared at the six-legged blade-like chi, which was hovering in midair. With six legs, it will be difficult to get close to it. Tang Qingshan felt a headache coming on. The six-legged blade-like chi hovered in midair. It had also realized how terrifying this human was. Up until now, the six-legged blade-like chi had yet to injure Tang Qingshan, but it had already suffered light injuries. Now, in terms of strength, Tang Qingshan was not weaker than it. In terms of attacking techniques, Tang Qingshan was equally powerful. The six-legged blade-like chi was also pondering how to defeat the human in front of it. Both the human and the demonic beast felt that the other party was difficult to deal with. In midair, Li Jun, who was standing on the blue wand's back, held her breath as she watched. It seems that I have to use my most powerful move. Tang Qingshan understood that would be a waste of time to continue fighting. Therefore, he immediately used his most powerful move. Tang Qingshan stretched out his left hand. Chi-Chi, threads of supreme force twisted and gathered in Tang Qingshan's palm. They then condensed into a ball and hid inside Tang Qingshan's body. Now that I have reached the later stage of the supreme force, I can use this move. Tang Qingshan stepped on the mountain wall and suddenly leaped up over 10 zhang. Then he suddenly stomped on the ground. He broke the mountain wall and dashed towards the six-legged blade-like chi, which was at the same height as him. Roar! The six-legged blade-like chi's eyes were slightly red. Its pride as a demonic beast didn't allow it to retreat. Instead, it flapped its two pairs of wings, and with the help of the strong momentum, its six enormous sickle-like legs slashed towards Tang Qingshan. Even the air was filled with blades of chi. Tang Qingshan's eyes were as sharp as knives. He spun the reincarnation spear in his hand, and a stream of earthy yellow flowing light rapidly gathered at the tip of the reincarnation spear. With the force of the rotation, the flowing light actually rotated and compressed. When it reached the tip of the spear, it transformed into an earthy yellow speck of light. No one would doubt the power of the internal supreme force compressed into a speck of light. As the supreme force rotated, Tang Qingshan grabbed the spear shaft with both of his arms and shook it fiercely. The shaft of the reincarnation spear began to rotate. The powerful and terrifying force and the light speck of the supreme force converged at one spot. Chi-Chi, at the tip of the spear, the light speck of the supreme force combined with the powerful penetrating power, producing a terrifying force that distorted the space. The six-legged blade-like Chi seemed to feel threatened, and its six long legs blocked simultaneously. Boom! The space suddenly exploded. It was as if the heavenly thunder roared beside one's ears. The most powerful technique of the five elemental spear of Xing-Yi martial arts, Vermilion Tiger Roar. The powerful and terrifying explosive force instantly blasted the six long legs away. A silvery shooting star flashed past, and the tip of the reincarnation spear pierced the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like Chi without the protection of its wings. The layer of scales alone couldn't block the tip of the reincarnation spear at all. A Chi sound was heard. The reincarnation spear pierced its abdomen. Below the scales was the layer of flesh, and its defense was 10 to 100 times weaker. When the tip of the reincarnation spear pierced halfway in, Tung Qingshan immediately pulled it out. Swoosh! Tung Qingshan stepped on the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like Chi, and with a forceful push, his entire body dived downwards. Green blood spurted out from the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like Chi as Tung Qingshan landed on the ground. The muscles on the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like Chi wriggled, and the blood quickly stopped flowing. You lost! Tung Qingshan stood on the ground. The six-legged blade-like Chi also landed on the ground, and the huge eyes on its triangular head stared fixedly at Tung Qingshan. It knew that if Tung Qingshan hadn't been merciful, it would have been dead. If Tung Qingshan's reincarnation spear had pierced a little deeper, and at the same time he had channeled his internal supreme force into the blade-like Chi and caused it to explode, he would have been able to kill it. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Chi roared deeply. The move of the Vermilion Tiger Roar is just as I expected. Tung Qingshan was overjoyed. Before he had cultivated the internal supreme force, Tung Qingshan's strongest move was the Vermilion Tiger Roar, not the Toxic Dragon Drill. In the past, under the city wall of Yinjiang City, the two armies confronted each other. With the Vermilion Tiger Roar, Tung Qingshan killed an Emptiness Dan innate expert and turned him into ashes. The move of the Vermilion Tiger Roar was a combination of the innate true origin and physical strength. On the Great Prairie, the internal supreme force had reached the middle stage. Because the internal supreme force and the innate true origin could not coexist, the move of the Vermilion Tiger Roar was a combination of physical strength and innate true origin. Its explosive power was about 1 million Gene. As for the Toxic Dragon Drill, it was a combination of physical strength and supreme force. Its power was even stronger. The internal supreme force was very special. It could only be condensed into battle armor when it reached the late stage. In the early stage, it would only be streaks of flowing light, and in the middle stage, it would only be condensed into a ring. The requirements for the move of the Vermilion Tiger Roar were very strict. The energy had to be condensed at the spearhead, and then it would rotate and overlap into a point. This kind of control was even better than condensing battle armor. It was impossible to achieve this level when one was at the early and middle stage of the Supreme Force. When one reached the late stage, the Supreme Force would transform and could easily condense into battle armor. It was easier to control than using the innate true origin. Of course, this was the only move that could be used. The explosive power of the Supreme Force was 800,000 Gene. When the Supreme Force within the body fused with the body, Tung Qingshan's arms could once again explode with a strength of 160,000 Gene. In other words, the move of the Vermilion Tiger Roar could explode with a strength of 260,000 Gene. It completely surpassed the power of the Toxic Dragon Drill. However, this move consumes too much of the Supreme Force. Tung Qingshan sighed to himself. The power of this move was great, but the consumption was also shocking. In his previous life, Tung Qingshan's strongest fist art was the Tiger Cannon Fist, and now, the spear art with the strongest penetrating power was the Vermilion Tiger Roar. Of course, the move Splitting Mountain was also very powerful. It could be used against humans or demonic beasts with strong defenses and weak internal organs. It could even be used to defeat a person or demonic beast with one strike. As for the Toxic Dragon Drill, it consumed very little of the internal supreme force and could be used for a longer period of time. The Pursuing Shadow was continuous and unending, and the Transmutation Unity Law was the strongest defense. Each of the 5 moves of Tung Qingshan's spear art had its own advantages and disadvantages. Fortunately, I have this move. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to defeat the 6-legged blade-like Qi. Tung Qingshan smiled. Big Brother Tung. Li Jun's voice rang. The blue wand swooped down from the sky and landed on the ground. Li Jun leaped down from the back of the blue wand and ran over excitedly. Big Brother Tung, you won. Little Jun, help me ask it if it is willing to follow me. Tung Qingshan said. Tung Qingshan had failed to subdue the 6-legged blade-like Qi before, but now he was stronger than it. With Li Jun's help, there should be hope. Roar, roar, roar. Li Jun stared at the 6-legged blade-like Qi. The 6-legged blade-like Qi hesitated for a moment and stared at Tung Qingshan, emitting a deep roar. Li Jun frowned and immediately roared again. Just like that, they conversed for a while. Big Brother Tung. Li Jun stared at Tung Qingshan. What's wrong? Tung Qingshan couldn't sense anything wrong. Li Jun said helplessly, this 6-legged blade-like Qi is really stubborn. No matter what I say, it won't agree. It is very arrogant. The blade-like art it uses with its 6 legs is somewhat similar to the Metal Elemental Dao. I have already created the first move of the Metal Elemental Fist. If it watches it often, it will comprehend the Dao and become an emptiness realm demonic beast. Tung Qingshan said. The blue wand had followed Tung Qingshan because of this. I said it. Li Jun shook her head and said, I also said that Big Brother Tung. You have improved so much that you will reach the emptiness realm in the future. It will be beneficial to let it follow us. However, the 6-legged blade-like Qi refused to yield. Tung Qingshan stared at the 6-legged blade-like Qi. The 6-legged blade-like Qi also stared at Tung Qingshan. The man and the demonic beast stared at each other. Tung Qingshan could faintly see a hint of ridicule in the 6-legged blade-like Qi's eyes. He smiled and said, Little Jun, ask it again. I don't think it is that stubborn and stupid. Li Jun nodded and turned her head to ask. Hearing the 6-legged blade-like Qi's answer, Li Jun revealed a surprised expression. What did it say? Tung Qingshan asked. Big Brother Tung, it asked you. What was the move that defeated it just now? Your strength is on par with it. How did you suddenly become so strong? Li Jun asked. It was obvious that the 6-legged blade-like Qi was still unwilling to accept defeat after being defeated by Tung Qingshan. It was obvious that the two of them were on par. How did it lose? Tung Qingshan smiled and said, Tell it that this is the spear art that I created. After Li Jun relayed the message, the 6-legged blade-like Qi pondered for a moment. Roar, roar, the 6-legged blade-like Qi emitted a deep roar. It said that you're not much stronger than it. It can easily escape with a flap of its wings. It will not submit to you. Li Jun explained. Tung Qingshan frowned. The 6-legged blade-like Qi continued to roar. Li Jun continued to explain. It said that although it will not submit to you, your strength has indeed improved greatly. The first time, you and another human were no match for it. The second time, you were able to defend against its attack. The third time, you defeated it. Moreover, you pierced its scales but didn't kill it. Therefore, the 6-legged blade-like Qi promised to follow you for 10 years as repayment for the mercy you showed earlier. Within 10 years, if you can help it increase its strength, it will continue to follow you. If it doesn't, it will leave. If you agree, it will stay. Otherwise, it will leave. With this, Li Jun looked at Tung Qingshan. It really won't release the eagle until it sees the rabbit. Tung Shan smiled and said, "Tell it that I will let it follow me." Li Jun looked over with a smile and explained. "Roar." The six-legged blade-like Qi roared as well. "Big Brother Tung, it said that it also hopes that you can help it become an emptiness realm godly beast." Li Jun said with a smile. From then on, the six-legged blade-like Qi became the third demonic beast by Tung Shan's side. Chapter 376. The goose feather-like snowflakes fluttered between the heavens and the earth. The crescent moon lake of the godly Axe Mountain was similarly covered with a thick layer of snow. It was already afternoon. In the forest ahead, Tung Shou was continuously practicing his fist technique. The coachman, Old Wang, was also practicing his sword technique nearby. Tung Shan, who was usually the most hard-working, was now standing quietly under the eaves, looking at the endless snow. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed. Ever since he had captured Dongzhi and obtained that stone inscription, Tung Shan had been cultivating wholeheartedly. Tung Shan became even crazier after he reached the later stage of the Supreme Force, and his body was perfected inside and outside. Tung Shan had subdued the six-legged blade-like Qi. Every time he comprehended something, he would go and spar with the six-legged blade-like Qi in the entire godly Axe Mountain range. Many trees that had been growing for hundreds and thousands of years had suffered because of this. Today could be said to be the only day that Tung Shan could rest after obtaining the stone inscription. Emperor used 36 splitting mountain forms, started with the earth elemental Tao, and gradually mixed the metal elemental Tao. I obtained the 9th form from the Hall of Assassins. This 9th form uses the metal elemental Tao as the main technique and the earth elemental Tao as a supplement. After cultivating for several months, I have completely comprehended it. It's a pity that there's only one piece. Tung Shan was somewhat dissatisfied. This stone inscription had indeed allowed Tung Shan to improve at a much faster rate. In just a few months, Tung Shan had created the first, second, and third forms of his metal element fist. However, Tung Shan's mastery of the earth elemental fist was already extremely high. He had already reached the 7th stage. The 9th stone inscription of the 36 splitting mountain forms didn't contain a very profound earth elemental Tao. It only slightly improved Tung Shan's earth element fist. It's a pity that I only have this one piece. If all 36 pieces were here, I would be able to kill all of them. Stepping into the emptiness realm within 1 or 2 years is definitely not a dream. Tung Shan thought to himself. 20. I'm already 20. 19 years of age was spent in front of the celestial jade annulus on the Bright Moon Island. 20 years of age was spent in front of the godly Axe Mountain stone inscription. Tung Shan had never relaxed on himself. "Father, mother, I have been away from you for more than 2 years." Tung Shan still missed his kind parents the most. His father, Tung Yongfan, had been captured by the men of Qinghu Island. He had narrowly escaped death, but both of his legs were broken. I wonder how father is doing these 2 years. 20 years old. How are my parents in the distance? The distance between Duanmu continent and the continent of the 9 prefectures was too far. The distance between the 2 continents was tens of thousands of li. Even an innate expert would find it extremely difficult to cross the sea. If they were not careful, they would fall into some dangerous regions of the sea. Although I had publicly declared that I had betrayed the sect, would Qinghu Island, which had suffered such a great loss, be willing to do so? I've been away from the 9 states for more than a year. I wonder how my sect is doing. Also, the Heavenly God Palace is full of ambition. Perhaps a storm has already started in the land of the 9 prefectures. Tung Shan was very worried. Previously, he had seen a godly eagle attack Xiao Yao Palace with thunderbolts. Xiao Yao Palace was one of the 8 supreme sects, but it was still attacked by an emptiness realm divine beast. This was a hint that the undercurrent in the land of the 9 prefectures was turbulent. Once it erupts, the land of the 9 prefectures will be in chaos. Will the Gui Yuan sect be able to withstand it? Tung Qingshan was burning with anxiety. Just by observing some movements in the land of the 9 prefectures, Tung Qingshan could infer many signs of danger. The Gui Yuan sect, which had a weak foundation, could indeed be destroyed in the face of the 8 supreme sects and the heavenly God Palace. If the Gui Yuan sect was destroyed, then Tung Qingshan's parents and the Tungjia village would also be in great danger. I hope the land of the 9 prefectures will continue to be peaceful. At least, it will last until I return. Tung Qingshan's heart was filled with hope. Because he was far away from the land of the 9 prefectures, there was no news of the land of the 9 prefectures. Therefore, Tung Qingshan was very worried. The unknown was the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was, when he returned, he would discover that the Gui Yuan sect and the Tungjia village had all been destroyed. Time, Tung Qingshan furrowed his brows and thought to himself, if I cultivate slowly, it will probably take a few years, maybe even 10 years, to reach the emptiness realm. This speed is fast. Many experts can only reach the emptiness realm when they are over 100 years old. Reaching the emptiness realm before the age of 30 is fast. However, this is not enough. He didn't have time to waste. He didn't have time to squander. I have to rely on the stone inscriptions. One stone inscription is enough to save me a lot of time. Comprehending the heavens and the earth and the Tao was, of course, very difficult. However, he could use the achievements of the predecessors as a reference and integrate them into his own. This way, his foundation would be stable, but his speed would be much faster. Big Brother Tung? A voice came from the side. Tung Qingshan turned his head and saw Li Jun, who was wearing a white cotton-padded jacket, walking over with a smile. Big Brother Tung, what are you thinking about? I'm homesick. Tung Qingshan sighed softly. Homesick? Li Jun froze slightly. When Tung Qingshan saw Li Jun's expression, he immediately woke up from his thoughts. He knew that Li Jun had lost her home long ago. His words just now must have made Li Jun feel terrible. Tung Qingshan looked outside and suddenly locked his eyes on the statue-like figure in the distance. He changed the topic and said, Little Jun, look, that kid is still here. Big Brother Tung, that person has been kneeling on the ground for 2 days and 2 nights. Li Jun stared at the figure and said, Big Brother Tung, aren't you going to say a few words to him? Back then, Tung Qingshan had barged into the Dong residence and captured Dongzhi. This had been witnessed by a large number of Dong clan's henchmen and servants. No one knew where the news that the person who captured Dongzhi was Tung Qingshan had leaked, but it had quickly spread. In addition, many great clans had come to the godly Axe Mountain to rope in Tung Qingshan. Therefore, Tung Qingshan's reputation had become even greater. Many people had never seen Tung Qingshan before, but they already knew of Tung Qingshan's existence. Some well-informed warriors knew that Tung Qingshan lived in the godly Axe Mountain, so they came to be apprenticed to him. In this chaotic era, it would be very easy to be apprenticed to an extremely powerful expert and learn his skills. In the future, it would be very easy to obtain glory, splendor, and wealth. There are many people who want to be my apprentice. Do you think I will accept them if they kneel for a few days and nights? Tung Qingshan smiled and said, For warriors who possess inner strength, kneeling for 2 to 3 days is nothing. Old Wang, Tung Qingshan shouted. Boss. Old Wang, who had been practicing his sword in the snow, hastily ran over. Over the past few months, Old Wang had received Tung Qingshan's guidance and slept in the underground cave. Thus, his strength had improved extremely quickly. Tell that kid that I don't accept disciples. It's useless even if he kneels to death. Tung Qingshan ordered. Yes, boss. Old Wang hastily ran over to the statue-like man, who was completely covered by snow. The statue-like man raised his head and argued with Old Wang. Seeing this, Tung Qingshan shook his head inwardly. Over the past few months, Tung Qingshan had seen too many methods of apprenticing. There were those who knelt for a long time, those who deliberately put on airs to attract Tung Qingshan, and those who used honey traps. Unfortunately, Tung Ching Shan was stubborn and did not accept any disciple. If I lived in Dwamu continent for several decades, I might accept more disciples. However, I will eventually return to the land of the 9 prefectures. To Dwamu continent, I am just a passerby. Tung Ching Shan turned around and entered the house. Old Wang couldn't persuade him, so he could only shake his head and leave. In the evening, the warrior who knelt until his entire body was ice-cold finally couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up with difficulty and cast a glance at the 3 stone houses. The silver spear martial saint, Tung Ching Shan, is really, as the legend says. It's really difficult to accept him as a disciple. 3 requirements for accepting disciples. The first requirement is to reach the innate realm, which innate martial saint isn't high and mighty. Who would be willing to become a disciple? For what I see, if you accept disciples like this, your lineage will end. The warrior felt hatred in his heart as he turned around and left. At this moment, a young man wearing a black leather coat and carrying a huge war saber walked over from the front. "Brother, are you also here to be an apprentice?" The martial artist glanced at the person who came and said, "I advise you to forget about it. This silver spear martial saint, Tung Ching Shan, is an impenetrable person. No matter what method you use, he is extremely hard-hearted." "Oh." The young man cast a glance at him, smiled, and continued walking towards Tung Ching Shan's residence. Forget it if you don't believe me. You will know after you suffer." The warrior sneered and watched as the young man walked to Tung Ching Shan's residence. The warrior was waiting to watch a good show. As expected, Tung Ching Shan walked out of the house. "I guess he's going to be scolded." The warrior stared at him. Suddenly, his expression froze. The young man, carrying the war saber, was warmly welcomed by Tung Ching Shan. "What?" The warrior widened his eyes. Inside the house. "Brother Mu, please sit." Tung Ching Shan smiled and sat down. At the same time, he poured tea for the newcomer. The newcomer was the great elder of the Rising Sun Trading Company, Mu Wang. The great elder smiled and sat down. "Brother Tung, it seems that many people want to be your apprentice. Sigh, I regret it now. If I knew there would be so many troubles, I wouldn't have barged in when I captured Dongzhi." Tung Ching Shan shook his head and said helplessly. The great elder laughed and said, "Who can you blame? You barged in openly and caused such a big commotion. Once the news spreads, people will definitely ask who the mysterious expert is. There are only so many martial saints in the world. Which one of them isn't famous?" The great elder smiled and said, "Many clans know of you. Of course, this news can't be hidden." Tung Ching Shan shook his head helplessly. "Many people think of ways to become famous, to shake the world. You, on the other hand, only found out about you after you reached the peak of the Golden Dan innate realm." The great elder sighed. "You really hid yourself well." Tung Ching Shan smiled inwardly. His fame was very great in the land of the 9 prefectures. It wasn't that he hid himself, but that he had just arrived at Dwanmu continent. "Ha!" Tung Ching Shan took a sip of the steaming hot tea and asked curiously, "Old brother Mu, as far as I know, you've already returned to the West Hang region, right? Are you passing by here because it's on the way, or is there something else?" "I really have something important to do." The great elder smiled and said, "Oh." Tung Ching Shan's eyes brightened. "Tell me about it." The great elder chuckled and said, "Didn't you think of ways to obtain the stone inscriptions of the 36 splitting mountain forms? You went to capture Dongzhi just for 1 stone inscription." Tung Ching Shan's eyes brightened. Of course, he desired the stone inscriptions very much. He hastily asked why. Did the Hall of Assassins have another mission? "No." The great elder smiled and shook his head. "There are only so many stone inscriptions in the world. Everyone hides them for fear that outsiders will find out. There are also very few who are willing to take them out to issue missions. It's already good enough to receive 1 mission in a year." "Then why did you come?" Tung Ching Shan was puzzled. The great elder grinned. "I won't hide it from you. The Rising Sun Trading Company's influence is spread throughout the world. As for the stone inscriptions, the headquarters of the trading company has collected some. There are a total of 6. Chapter 377. 6 Yuan. Tung Shan's heart trembled. This was practically a timely help. Tung Shan had been anxiously wanting to obtain more stone inscriptions. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the Rising Sun Trading Company's great elder said that they had 6 stone inscriptions. Tung Shan knew very well that the stone inscriptions were personally made by Emperor Yu. Every stone inscription was incomparably precious. The Rising Sun Trading Company would definitely not lend it to others easily. Otherwise, why hadn't the Rising Sun Trading Company mentioned that they possessed the stone inscriptions during this half a year? What, brother Tung Shan, you don't believe me? Seeing that Tung Shan didn't speak, the great elder asked in surprise. Yes, of course I do. Tung Shan smiled and said, your Rising Sun Trading Company has a long history of over 3,000 years. Moreover, your influence is spread all over the world. You are the strongest trading company in the world. Even the Jiang clan has a stone inscription, and there are a total of 36 of them in the world. It would be strange if your trading firm didn't have one. It's not strange that there are 6 stone inscriptions. The first elder smiled. But I was thinking. Tung Shan smiled and looked at the great elder. These 6 stone inscriptions are extremely precious. Brother Mu, since you mentioned these 6 stone inscriptions, you must have something very difficult to do. Let me do it. It's a little difficult. The great elder nodded. Speak. What do you want me to do for you to lend me those 6 stone inscriptions? Tung Shan said. Having left the 9 prefectures for too long, Tung Shan had always been concerned about his faraway hometown. Now, he knew that the Rising Sun Trading Company had 6 stone inscriptions. Tung Shan had to obtain these 6 stone inscriptions no matter what. Good, straightforward enough. The great elder laughed. It's my teacher. He wants you to do something for him. Teacher, the dreamy cloud martial immortal. Tung Shan was shocked. He frowned and said, Brother Mu, your teacher is a war god ranker. He can't do anything. You want me to take action? Previously, Tung Shan was still confident. Now, however, he was slightly apprehensive. The martial immortal realm was an emptiness realm expert. An emptiness realm expert asked him to do something for him. Don't worry, the great elder said with a smile. Although my teacher is a war god, he is unable to fly. The last time I sparred with you, after we returned, Teacher Xiang has mentioned about your bird-type demonic beast. This time, teacher has something on, so he asked me to invite you to bring that bird-type demonic beast along. Bird-type demonic beasts? Tung Shan said in surprise. Your Rising Sun Trading Company doesn't have any demonic beasts that know how to fly. In this world, only the Tianfeng clan understands the language of beasts. The great elder shook his head and said, Moreover, there are very few bird-type demonic beasts, let alone taming them. The dreamy cloud, martial immortal, wants me to bring bird-type demonic beasts over. Is there a requirement for the bird-type demonic beast strength? Tung Shan asked. Not really. The great elder smiled and said, what the teacher values is the flying ability of the bird-type demonic beasts. As for strength, Golden Dan innate demonic beasts are useless to teacher. Tung Shan nodded. He made up his mind and set off with the whole Gale Eagle. As for the blue one, it would remain here. I still don't know what the dreamy cloud martial immortal wants me to do. Tung Shan asked. I'm not sure either. The great elder shook his head and said, I only know that we are going to the dreamy cloud swampland to search for something. Dreamy cloud swampland? Tung Shan was moved. The 3 most dangerous places in Duanmu continent were the Dreamy Cloud Swampland in the West Hang region, the Blazing Flame Ridge in the Eastern Flower region, and the Tianfeng Canyon in the Northern Frosty region. The Dreamy Cloud Swampland was ranked first. That's right. The Dreamy Cloud Swampland extends for 3,000 li. It is extremely vast. Even an emptiness realm expert would find it extremely difficult to search for a certain treasure. If there are bird-type demonic beasts, it would be much easier to look down from the sky. Tung Qingshan somewhat understood why the dreamy cloud martial immortal asked him to go. However, was it really just a search for something? The treasure that the dreamy cloud martial immortal wanted to search for might not be ordinary. However, no matter what, for the sake of the 6 stone inscriptions, Tung Qingshan had to make this trip. Old brother Mu, it is already late. How about we set off tomorrow morning? Tung Qingshan said. Yes, okay. Mu Wang nodded. During dinner that night, Tung Qingshan told Li Jun that he was going to the West Hang region. The next morning, under the gazes of Li Jun and the others, Tung Qingshan and the great elder Mu Wang rode the whole gale eagle and flew northwest. At noon, the sun shone on the boundless snow. The whole gale eagle spread its wings and soared. The back of the whole gale eagle was much wider than the back of the blue one. On the back of the whole gale eagle, Tung Qingshan and the great elder could sit cross-legged. If it was on the back of the blue one, only one person could sit. The whole gale eagle was swift and fierce. As it flew, the houses of the villages below were like ants. Look, the dreamy cloud ancient city is in front. The great elder pointed into the distance. Oh, is this the dreamy cloud ancient city? Tung Qingshan's eyes lit up as he looked at the ancient city from afar. The entire city was greenish-black in color, and there were a large number of guards on the city walls. Dreamy Cloud Ancient City was an ancient city with a history of more than 3,000 years. Since its establishment, it had been the headquarters of the Rising Sun Trading Company. That should be the Dreamy Cloud Lake. Tung Qingshan's gaze passed over the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City and looked at the vast and boundless world to the west of the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City. Under the illumination of the sun, there were faint ripples. It was a large swamp, the Dreamy Cloud Swamp, the most dangerous place in Duanmu continent. Yes, the 3,000-ly Dreamy Cloud Swampland. The great elder looked at the Dreamy Cloud Swampland from afar and exclaimed, "After so many years, I have never seen the Dreamy Cloud Swampland from such a high place." The whole gale eagle flew at an altitude of several thousand zhang. Looking at the Dreamy Cloud Swampland from such a high altitude, the scenery was indeed beautiful. Countless years have passed, but the Dreamy Cloud Swampland is still a world of beasts and monsters. The Dreamy Cloud Swampland was filled with dangers. The most dangerous thing was the terrain of the Dreamy Cloud Swampland was constantly changing. Even if it was at the expense of human lives, it would no longer be safe after a year or so. After a year or so, it will no longer be safe. The great elder sighed. Hearing this, Tung Qingshan only smiled. Compared to the desolate of the 9 prefectures, the 3,000-ly Dreamy Cloud Swampland was probably much larger. Let the whole gale eagle descend, the great elder hastily said. Through Tung Qingshan's introduction, he knew that this bird-type demonic beast was called the whole gale eagle. Little Gray. Tung Qingshan patted the feathers on the neck of the whole gale eagle. The whole gale eagle immediately let out a high-pitched cry and dived down. Outside the eastern gate of the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City, Tung Qingshan and the great elder Mu Wang walked side by side towards the gate of the city. The whole gale eagle followed behind them. Great elder. A convoy of carriages was waiting 1 li away from the city gate. Brother Tung, let's get on the carriage. Mu Wang smiled and said, let the whole gale eagle get on as well. If a demonic beast is in the city, then... Tung Qingshan patted the whole gale eagle's feathers with a smile and pointed at the carriage. Although the whole gale eagle was unable to communicate verbally, it possessed human intelligence and could easily understand Tung Qingshan's meaning. The 2 humans and the bird-type demonic beast entered the carriage in succession. Let's go, the great elder ordered. The convoy then advanced towards the city gate. When they arrived at the city gate, Tung Qingshan glanced through the window and noticed that anyone entering or exiting the city had to show a special number plate. Old Brother Mu, the guards at the gate of the Dreamy Cloud ancient city are quite strict. The Dreamy Cloud ancient city belongs to the Rising Sun Trading Company. Outsiders are not allowed to enter without permission, Mu Wang said with a smile. As far as I know, the Dreamy Cloud ancient city is also one of the 36 major cities. Your trading company is indeed powerful to be able to monopolize this major city and not allow others to enter. Tung Qingshan exclaimed in admiration. The great elder Mu Wang smiled and said, "The Dreamy Cloud ancient city was built by our trading company. For over 3,000 years, it has always belonged to our trading company." A trading company monopolized the city for over 3,000 years. It was simply unbelievable. After the convoy entered the city, they advanced rapidly along the streets. Not long after, they arrived at the entrance of a luxurious palace. The Dreamy Cloud ancient city occupies an area of several li. As for the Rising Sun City, it is a city within a city, occupying an area of several li. The great elder explained, "Now, we have already entered the Rising Sun City. My teacher is also in the Rising Sun City." Tung Qingshan exclaimed inwardly in admiration. The Rising Sun Trading Company's conduct already had the demeanor of the great sects of the 9 prefectures. The great sects of the 9 prefectures occupied a county city and then built a city within a city. "Great elder, we have arrived." A voice came from outside. "Let's disembark." The great elder smiled and led Tung Qingshan and the whole Gale Eagle down the carriage. Beautiful maids could be seen everywhere in the Rising Sun City. Occasionally, a group of patrolling soldiers could be seen. "Brother Tung, do you know how many soldiers there are in the Dreamy Cloud ancient city?" The great elder asked with a smile. 100,000? Tung Qingshan guessed. 200,000. The great elder smiled. It was obvious that he was proud of the trading company. 200,000 soldiers? That's even more than the great clans. Tung Qingshan sighed with emotion. The population of the Dreamy Cloud ancient city is nearly 1 million. Other than the 200,000 soldiers, the rest of the population are the descendants of the Mu clan. The great elder continued. "What? The Mu clan?" Tung Qingshan froze. Almost everyone in a city was from the same clan? Was that possible? The Rising Sun Trading Company. Tung Qingshan stared at the great elder in surprise and said, "Brother Mu, I know a few people in the Rising Sun Trading Company. All of them have the surname Mu. Could it be?" It seems that Brother Ting knows very little about the Rising Sun Trading Company. This is not a secret. In the Rising Sun Trading Company, almost all the stewards are from the Mu clan, and the elders are definitely from the Mu clan. The Rising Sun Trading Company is also the trading company of the Mu clan. The great elder smiled and said, "I thought Brother Ting knew about it. This was actually not a secret. All the great clans knew about it." "Amazing," Tung Qingshan exclaimed. Other than the army, 99% of the population in the city are from the Mu clan. Tung Qingshan was even more astonished. His hometown, Tongjia Village, only had over 2,000 people. However, the Mu clan had nearly 800,000 people. If the people scattered all over the world were added, the population would probably exceed 1 million. This is not strange. The Mu clan was a great clan 3,000 years ago. As the clan passed down from generation to generation, the population increased. Over 3,000 years. How many people are there now? The great elder was extremely proud. The main branch of the Mu clan has 8 branches, and the side branches have 79 branches. Under the side branches, there are also many branches. When Tung Qingshan heard this, he exclaimed inwardly, "This was such a prosperous clan. If only his Tung clan could be so prosperous, it would be enough." For example, the bloodline of Yu the Great and the bloodline of Duanmu deity can only flourish for a short period of time. The bloodline of the Mu clan is the most suitable for the clan to develop. Tung Qingshan also had some ideas about the future development of Tongjia Village. The two chatted as they walked. "Brother Tung, my teacher's residence is in front. Wait here for a while. I will go inform him." The great elder, said with a smile. This is the residence of the dreamy cloud, martial immortal? Looking at the ordinary-looking palace before him, Tung Qingshan's heart tightened. Chapter 378. The palace that the dreamy cloud, martial immortal resided in occupied a large area. The main palace was divided into the front palace, the main palace, and the rear palace. It was a structure of 3 halls and 2 gardens. Every palace was made of grayish-white stone bricks and light brown tiles. The roofs of the palaces were all pointed. The dreamy cloud martial immortal is one of the 2 martial immortals of Duanmu continent. Tung Qingshan looked at the palace door and thought to himself, when I reach the emptiness realm and return to the land of the 9 prefectures, I will need to deal with experts like them. Tung Qingshan knew that both the land of the 9 prefectures and Duanmu continent, emptiness realm, martial immortal, experts were the ones who truly determined the fate of the continent. There were only 2 emptiness realm experts in Duanmu continent. Therefore, the status of innate experts was very high. In a land of the 9 prefectures, the number of emptiness realm experts in one prefecture was equal to that of Duanmu continent. Some prefectures, such as Yuzhou of Emperor Yu's Hall and Yongzhou of the Ying family, might have more emptiness realm experts than Duanmu continent. In a land of the 9 prefectures, there were many emptiness realm experts, and all of them stood at the peak. When I finish helping the dreamy cloud, martial immortal, and obtain the 6 stone inscriptions, I will probably reach the emptiness realm. Tung Qingshan thought to himself. Even if the 6 stone inscriptions don't help me reach the emptiness realm, it should not be much different. The difference should not be too big. Tung Qingshan and the whole Gale Eagle, 1 man and 1 eagle, stood outside the palace door. The elite soldiers who frequently patrolled the area also looked at the whole Gale Eagle, which was taller than a human, in astonishment. After a while, Brother Tung, come. Follow me. Great Elder Mu Wang smiled and walked out of the palace door. Little Gray, let's go. Tung Qingshan patted the whole Gale Eagle's feathers, and the 2 entered the palace door. Brother Mu, where is the palace of the dreamy cloud, martial immortal? Tung Qingshan asked. Just ahead. Great Elder Mu Wang laughed. My teacher has a very good temper. However, don't act arrogant in front of him. My teacher hates that kind of person the most. If my teacher hates someone, it's very likely that he'll kill them. I'm not that arrogant. Tung Qingshan also laughed. Walking along the corridors of the main hall, Zhang Xian circled around the main hall and arrived at a spacious palace garden at the back. Pieces of blue stone were laid out neatly in the palace garden. On one of the bluestone floors, a carpet was laid out and a table was set up. An old man wearing a snow-white fur coat and a felt hat was sitting cross-legged on the carpet. There was a pot of wine and 2 wine cups on the table in front of him. Beside the long table was a giant saber. The saber was sheathed in a scabbard. There were some strange engravings on the scabbard, and there was a wolf head pattern on the hilt. Teacher, Mu Wang bowed respectfully. Tung Qingshan greets senior. Tung Qingshan said respectfully. Oh, the young man named Tung Qingshan is here. It was a very friendly voice. The silver-haired, white-bearded old man looked at Tung Qingshan with a smile and then glanced at the whole Gale Eagle beside Tung Qingshan. His smile became even wider, and he instructed, Yes, Mu Wang, you can go back first. I want to have a good chat with this young man. Yes, teacher. Mu Wang left respectfully. Tung Qingshan then took a closer look at the dreamy cloud, martial immortal. The dreamy cloud, martial immortal looked like an amiable old man. He was very similar to his grandfather, Tung Qingshan. Both of them had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. However, when he smiled, he seemed very amiable. When Tung Qingshan first saw the dreamy cloud, martial immortal, he couldn't feel any difference between the dreamy cloud, martial immortal and an ordinary person. Sit. The dreamy cloud, martial immortal pointed at the opposite side. Yes. Tung Qingshan stepped forward and sat cross-legged. Cultivators often sat cross-legged during cultivation. They were used to not using a chair. Tung Ching Shan, if you don't mind, I can call you Ching Shan, the dreamy cloud martial immortal said with a smile. Tung Ching Shan responded with a smile. Ching Shan, this old man invited you here today because I have something to ask of you. The dreamy cloud martial immortal looked at the whole gale eagle and praised. As far as I know, you should have another flying demonic beast that can spit fire. I didn't expect you to bring this one here today. Awesome, awesome. This old man doesn't even have a flying demonic beast. I was just lucky. Tung Ching Shan laughed and said, Yes, judging from your eyes, you should still be very young. You're not even 60 years old yet, right? The dreamy cloud martial immortal said. Tung Ching Shan was shocked. Innate experts were all experts with great spirit. As for emptiness realm experts, they comprehended the Tao of heaven. The eyes of a child and the eyes of an old man were completely different. Although it was not very accurate to judge one's age from the eyes, the judgment of emptiness realm experts was not wrong. This dreamy cloud martial immortal is really powerful. In my previous life, I was almost 30 years old when I died. In this life, I am 20 years old. He said that I am not even 60 years old. Tung Ching Shan exclaimed. Yes, you are not even 60 years old. Tung Ching Shan nodded. The dreamy cloud martial immortal nodded and exclaimed, Mu Wang is the most outstanding disciple of the Mu clan in the past 200 years. Now, he is only a step away from stepping into the emptiness realm and becoming a martial immortal. However, he is already over 130 years old while you are not even half his age. Yet, your achievements are higher than his. Amazing, amazing. Tung Ching Shan was stunned. Stepping into the emptiness realm and becoming a martial immortal? It seemed that there was an emptiness realm in the Duanmu continent. Come, Ching Shan, let's spar. With this, the dreamy cloud martial immortal stood up. Spar? Tung Ching Shan was shocked and hastily said, Senior, you want to spar with me? In Tung Ching Shan's opinion, he had not even reached the emptiness realm. Sparring with the dreamy cloud martial immortal would only result in being trampled. I'm letting you try. What are you worried about? Are you worried that I will take the opportunity to kill you? The dreamy cloud martial immortal frowned and said unhappily. Immediately, Tung Ching Shan felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him. Tung Ching Shan laughed and untied the spear holster on his back. At the same time, he said, Since Senior is willing to teach me, this Junior, personally, I am more than happy to do so. Good, this is more like it. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed heartily. Chi-Chi, Tung Ching Shan spun the two parts of the spear into one and threw the spear holster beside the table. Immediately, he tapped the ground with his feet and his body turned into a phantom. In an instant, he retreated 10 zhang and stood still with the spear in his hand. He looked at the dreamy cloud martial immortal with a smile and said, This Junior's abilities are all in this spear. Senior, please teach me. Tung Ching Shan felt a sense of pride. After so many years, he had never fought with an emptiness realm expert. When he was at the God of Heaven mountain, he had seen the God of Heaven. Just the look in the God of Heaven's eyes was enough to affect him. When he was at the God of Heaven mountain, he had only fought with the first godly General Borlimu, the disciple of the God of Heaven. Emptiness realm experts were regarded as legends. Regardless of whether it was the land of the 9 prefectures or Duanmu continent, they were existences at the peak. Today, I want to see how powerful an emptiness realm expert is. Tung Ching Shan's mental state rose to its peak. Haha, not bad. The dreamy cloud martial immortal smiled and stood with his hands clasped. He looked at Tung Ching Shan and said, Make your move. Use your most powerful move. Phew. Tung Ching Shan narrowed his eyes. He could clearly feel that the dreamy cloud martial immortal, who was an amiable senior and an ordinary-looking elder, had instantly transformed into a fierce battle saber. The dreamy cloud martial immortal's entire body emitted a faint aura of saber. Even the surroundings of the dreamy cloud martial immortal seemed to be flickering with saber light. This wasn't a hallucination. It was a fact. Senior, be careful. Tung Ching Shan's eyes became focused, as if they had condensed into a needle. Phew, phew. Tung Qingshan's figure was like a loach in the water. He moved forward with a flicker, moving in a strange route. In the blink of an eye, he had dashed from a distance of 10 zhong to a distance of 2 zhong in front of the dreamy cloud martial immortal. Simultaneously, Tung Qingshan's entire body was enveloped by a layer of aqua-blue battle armor. The reincarnation spear in his hand was also flowing with aqua-blue supreme force. Chi! The clothes on Tung Qingshan's right arm bulged, and the reincarnation spear transformed into a huge snake sticking out its tongue. It also looked like a flood dragon that had just dashed out a cave. The dragon head dashed out. Chi! The reincarnation spear instantly tore through the air. As Tung Qingshan exerted his strength at the last moment, the body of the reincarnation spear instantly became like a rotating python or a sharp awl that could drill the heavens and the earth. With an ear-piercing and unpleasant sound, the reincarnation spear, which was made of 10,000 years cold steel, pierced towards the dreamy cloud martial immortal. The combination of the body and the supreme force. An enormous force of 1,600,000 gene exploded. The poison dragon drill of the 5 elemental spear. The dreamy cloud martial immortal's expression turned solemn. He quickly waved his right hand like a blade. Clang! On the surface of the blade, a huge blade shadow appeared out of thin air. The reincarnation spear was struck at an even faster speed. Tung Qingshan only felt a vigorous and terrifying force coming from the spear. It was like a flood bursting through a dam. In front of this force, the strength that Tung Qingshan was so proud of seemed like a joke. Tung Qingshan was directly sent flying, and a deep groove appeared on the bluestone floor. The bluestone fragments flew in all directions, leaving many holes on the palace walls. Some of the larger fragments even caused the palace walls to collapse, and the rumbling sounds continued. Quick, quick, over here! A large number of footsteps rushed over rapidly. All of you step back. The dreamy cloud martial immortal frowned and shouted coldly. All of you step back, step back, step back. The echoes reverberated continuously. Immediately, many green figures leaped out from the palace where the dreamy cloud martial immortal was at. They immediately ordered the meddlesome elite guards to step back. Subsequently, these green figures returned to the palace one by one. They didn't dare to disturb the dreamy cloud martial immortal. In the palace garden, only the dreamy cloud martial immortal and Tung Qingshan were left. Phew, he's really powerful. Tung Qingshan stood up. The surface of his body trembled with the aqua-blue supreme force as he leaped out of the deep pit. An emptiness realm expert is indeed an emptiness realm expert. He didn't even need to use a weapon to deal with me. With just a knife hand, the terrifying force sent me flying. In front of him, I didn't even have the chance to resist. Tung Qingshan could feel the shocking difference between them. Moreover, I used the toxic dragon drill first, and he defended later. Regardless of speed or power, he far surpassed me. Tung Qingshan was convinced. Tung Qingshan withdrew the supreme force on the surface of his body and cupped his hands, saying, "Senior, I lost." "Qingshan, you've really deceived Mu Wang." The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and strode over. "Mu Wang thought that you were a golden Dan innate expert. At that time, I thought that Mu Wang's comprehension of Tao was extremely high and that he was only one step away from reaching the emptiness realm. The person who could defeat him should be an emptiness realm expert. Today I see that it's true. Qingshan, you must have just reached the emptiness realm. I didn't expect that Duanmu continent would have a third martial immortal." The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed. Chapter 379. War God? Emptiness Realm? Confused, Tung Qingshan looked at the dreamy cloud martial immortal in confusion. Although he didn't know much about the emptiness realm, Tung Qingshan knew one thing. The sign of the emptiness realm was to communicate with the heavens and the earth and have boundless true origin. Currently, he did not communicate with the heavens and the earth, and his internal supreme force was not limitless. Senior, I have not reached the emptiness realm. How did you? Tung Shan stared at the dreamy cloud, martial immortal, in confusion. The dreamy cloud, martial immortal, froze for a moment before he laughed out loud. Shan, reaching the emptiness realm is a good thing. Why are you hiding it? What, you think I can't tell? The power of your spear is definitely not something that a Golden Dan innate expert can display. The power of the spear of an expert who has just attained the emptiness realm is not much stronger than yours, the dreamy cloud martial immortal said. As he spoke, the dreamy cloud martial immortal's expression changed. He scrutinized Tung Shan and saw that Tung Shan's expression did not seem to be fake. The dreamy cloud martial immortal asked in surprise, "Why? Are you really not an emptiness realm expert?" Senior, I know that when one reaches the emptiness realm, one can communicate with the heavens and the earth, and one's true origin is endless. Tung Shan shook his head and said, "However, I have not reached the emptiness realm." The dreamy cloud martial immortal scrutinized Tung Shan and said, Shan, that spear strike of yours should have comprehended the water Tao. Aside from being slightly rough, its power is very close to that of an emptiness realm expert. Tung Shan began to understand. The explosive force of a Golden Dan innate expert was around 800,000 gene. As for himself, it was 6 million gene, double that. They were not on the same level at all. Tung Shan also knew that there were differences between emptiness realm experts. The Tao of Heaven was vast. Only those who had achieved initial comprehension of the Tao of Heaven could step into the emptiness realm. Only when one fully comprehended the emptiness realm culmination would they be able to achieve emptiness realm culmination. There was a huge difference between the initial emptiness realm and the culmination of the emptiness realm. Since the dreamy cloud martial immortal was unable to fly, it was obvious that he had not reached the level of emptiness realm culmination. Initial emptiness realm is the lowest level of the emptiness realm. According to what the dreamy cloud martial immortal said, the explosive force of a novice emptiness realm expert is almost the same as mine. Thus, it is not strange that the explosive force of a Golden Dan innate expert is twice as strong. I have yet to enter the emptiness realm, but my strength is already this strong. If I step into the emptiness realm, I'm afraid that I will be even more powerful than the experts who have just entered the emptiness realm. Tung Shan felt a trace of joy in his heart. One step higher, one would always be one level higher. The cultivation of the internal martial art could strengthen one's body. As the first emptiness realm expert in the history of the internal martial arts, Tung Shan's strength was higher than that of an ordinary emptiness realm expert. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. The dreamy cloud martial immortal smiled and said, "Let's sit down and talk business." Tung Shan and the dreamy cloud martial immortal sat across from each other. It doesn't matter if you are an emptiness realm expert or not. In the entire Duamu continent, besides that person from the Tianfeng clan and me, no one is your match. The dreamy cloud martial immortal was very sure. Besides the emptiness realm godly beasts, the other demonic beasts in the dreamy cloud swampland are no match for you. This time, I asked Shan to help me look for the spear herbs. For Shan, there won't be any danger. The dreamy cloud martial immortal said with a smile. Senior, did you say that there is an emptiness realm godly beast? Tung Shan was slightly surprised. There is an emptiness realm godly beast in the dreamy cloud swampland? Of course there is. The dreamy cloud martial immortal sighed and said, in the past, the dark elegant horse, the godly beast of Duanmu deity, who appeared out of nowhere and became invincible with his thunderblade, is an emptiness realm godly beast. Although it doesn't have wings, the dark elegant horse can still fly in the sky. Obviously, it is a godly beast that has reached emptiness realm culmination. Ever since Duanmu deity passed away, the dark, elegant horse lost its master and has been living in the 3,000-li dreamy cloud swampland. I have entered the dreamy cloud swampland over 100 times and have seen the dark, elegant horse a few times. The dreamy cloud, martial immortal's eyes glinted with a special light. The dark, elegant horse. It was the mount of the Thunderblade deity, Duanmu Yu. Duanmu Yu was an omnipotent expert who was on the same level as Emperor Yu. It wasn't strange for other Emptiness Realm experts to dream of taming his mount. The dark, elegant horse. The dreamy cloud martial immortal sighed and said, "This godly beast is very proud and aloof. Besides Duanmu deity, no one has been able to tame it." It can be said that the dark, elegant horse is the king of the dreamy cloud swampland. The dreamy cloud martial immortal sighed. When Tung Qingshan heard this, he yearned for the dark, elegant horse. Of course, Tung Qingshan just wanted to look at it. Tung Qingshan didn't dare to be arrogant and think that he could tame a godly beast that had reached Emptiness Realm culmination. During the battle at the Great Yin Mountain in Yangzhou, the demonic dragon Violet Rain appeared. It could be said to be a catastrophe. Many innate experts of the various sects were killed, and the Silver Dragon army of Qinghu Island instantly lost over 10,000 men. Although Tung Qingshan didn't see it, when he was with Li Jun, he heard the news from Li Jun. As the goddess of the god of Heaven Mountain, it wasn't strange for Li Jun to know this news. "Senior, you asked me to help you find a medicine. What kind of medicine are you looking for? Where's the medicine?" "The dreamy cloud swampland is 3,000 li long. Do you want me to look around like a blind man?" Tung Qingshan knew very well that it would take several hours to travel 3,000 li under the harsh environment of the great swampland. This wasn't traveling, but searching for the medicine. He had to search carefully. Of course, the speed was slow. It would take at least 10 days to half a month to travel 3,000 li slowly. The most important thing was the dreamy cloud swampland was 3,000 li long and 1,000 li wide. Even if he walked back and forth 1,000 times, he still wouldn't be able to cover the entire dreamy cloud swampland. Don't worry. I won't let you run around like a blind man." The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, "I think you know that the 3 perilous places of the Duanmu continent are extremely dangerous and have endless disasters. However, the heavens are fair. There are also 3 great spiritual treasures in the 3 perilous places. The dreamy cloud swampland has the dreamy cloud white fruit, the blazing flame red lotus in the blazing flame ridge, and the Tianfeng Valley has the Tianfeng pearl." The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, "This time, I want you to find the dreamy cloud white fruit." Tung Qingshan froze. Dreamy cloud white fruit? Blazing flame red lotus? Tianfeng water pearl? Tung Qingshan had never heard of these 3 great spiritual treasures. "Senior, can you tell me about these 3 great spiritual treasures?" "I really don't know," Tung Qingshan said shamelessly. He knew too little about the Duanmu continent. The dreamy cloud martial immortal was surprised and said, "Your teacher is really—" He didn't even tell you these. The 3 great spiritual treasures each have their own miraculous effects. Although there are many spiritual treasures of heaven and earth in the 3 perilous places, these 3 are the best. Among them, the Tianfeng pearl is a water droplet that was nurtured in the extremely cold Tianfeng Valley. This water droplet is green in color, but it doesn't freeze in the cold Tianfeng Valley. Once consumed, it can open up all the meridians in the body and give the body a strength of 100,000 jin. It can be said that once consumed, the body will transform into a perfect body. The dreamy cloud martial immortal exclaimed. Tung Qingshan was stunned. A strength of 100,000 jin? Open up all the meridians? This is too frightening, right? The blazing flame red lotus is even more special. The seeds of the blazing flame red lotus make all the great clans envious. As long as one ate one lotus seed, one's divinity would rapidly increase. Once an inner strength expert at the peak of the postliminary realm eats one lotus seed, he or she will most likely reach the innate realm. The dreamy cloud, martial immortal, continued. In the thousands of years of history of Duanmu continent, 9 red lotuses have been discovered. Among the 9 red lotuses, there are 3-leaf red lotuses, 4-leaf red lotuses, 5-leaf red lotuses, and the highest red lotus is a 7-leaf red lotus. The 9 red lotuses have a total of 42 lotus seeds. In the historical records, only one expert who consumed 1 lotus seed didn't reach the innate realm. The other 41 reached the innate realm. Tung Qingshan was dumbfounded. The blazing flame red lotus that can reach the innate realm? 41 out of 42 people succeeded? The probability was too high. Of course, in the thousands of years of history, there were only 41 more innate experts. On average, there was less than 1 innate expert every 100 years. Both the blazing flame red lotus and the Tianfeng pearl had amazing effects. The heavens are indeed fair. There are many natural disasters in Duanmu continent, but there are still such heaven-defying spiritual treasures. Tung Qingshan was amazed. In the land of the 9 prefectures, Tung Qingshan didn't find any spiritual treasures that could compare with the blazing flame red lotus and the Tianfeng pearl. Of course, the grass of immortality could. However, the grass of immortality was related to the undying phoenix, so it couldn't be counted in the land of the 9 prefectures. The third item is the dreamy cloud white fruit. The dreamy cloud martial immortal continued. The fruit of the dreamy cloud white fruit looks like an infant. It has the miraculous effect of bringing the dead back to life. Hearing the appearance of an infant, Tung Qingshan couldn't help but think of the ginseng fruit in the fairy tales of his previous life. Bringing the dead back to life? Senior, could it be that the dead can be revived? Tung Qingshan said in surprise. Haha, the dreamy cloud white fruit is extremely miraculous. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, Qingshan, you should know that when a person's vital parts are severely injured and his vitality is cut off, his spirit will dissipate and the person will die. What about the dreamy cloud white fruit? Even if you're severely injured, such as someone piercing a hole in your chest with a sword and shattering your heart and lungs, you will definitely die when your vitality is cut off. However, as long as your spirit hasn't dissipated, you should immediately consume the dreamy cloud white fruit. Even if your heart and lungs are shattered, they will grow back. Even if there's a hole in your chest, it will heal. Even if you're cut in half with a sword and half of your body is cut off, you will grow back the other half after consuming the dreamy cloud white fruit. Tung Qingshan was dumbfounded when he heard this. Bringing the dead back to life? It was indeed not a lie. If I had the dreamy cloud white fruit, Tung Qingshan's heart ached. If Qing Qing had the dreamy cloud white fruit when she died, wouldn't she have survived? Unfortunately, Qing Qing had been dead for many years. Of course, if the person is dead and his spirit has dissipated, it would be useless to consume it. The dreamy cloud martial immortal shook his head and said, Yin Ji, the most outstanding disciple of the younger generation of the Mu clan, reached the innate realm at the age of 29. When he was 19, his arms were cut off. I didn't expect him to be able to withstand the pressure and reach the innate realm. Without arms, his strength will be greatly affected. Therefore, I intend to find the dreamy cloud white fruit for him so that he can regrow his arms. An idea flashed in Tung Qingshan's mind, and his heart trembled. My father's legs are broken. His life must be inconvenient, and he must have suffered a lot. If I bring a dreamy cloud white fruit back to the land of the 9 prefectures, the blood in Tung Qingshan's body suddenly boiled. Of the 3 great spiritual treasures, I really want to consume a drop of the Tianfeng water bead. Waha, I have the strength of 100,000 Jin. I don't want to write anymore. I want to be a Superman. Haha, yes, I can also ask for monthly votes and recommendation votes. There seems to be a problem with the voting for recommendation votes. Sometimes, it makes me unhappy that I can't vote. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.